evening and welcome. Thank you for attending the regular council meeting of Monday, December 4th of 2023 in person and online. I'd like to thank the councillors who attended and served at the Santa's breakfast on Saturday, and also to Chantal, who is Councillor Darren Legault's wife, and also to Forrest, I believe, who is helping read, no?
Alistair.
And Alistair, I got the wrong person. So thank you everyone for that delightful event. I hear that it was sold out again this year, so this is great. And also I would like to thank the amazing team who organized the event of the Night of Lights, and also to the Hudson Choir and Tim Walsh and all the merchants who made this event particularly memorable. So coming up tomorrow on December 5th at 6:30 here at the Community Center in honor of World Soil Day, there will be an event organized by the Hudson Food Collective, and they'd suggested that we consult the Food and Agricultural Organization of the United States website for the key messages as to the added value and importance of improved soil care and management. So obviously soil health is incredibly important to the ability to trap carbon, but also to mitigate the impact of climate change. Also, on Wednesday, December 6th, Wednesday marks the 34th year since the murder of 14 young women at Polytechnique Montréal in 1989. This act of violent misogyny shook our country and led the Parliament to designate December 6th as the National Day of Remembrance and Action on Violence against Women. As we remember their lives, let us reaffirm our commitment to fight the hatred that led to this tragedy and to the misogyny that still exists today. On December 11th, next Monday at 7:30, there will be the presentation and the adoption of the 2024 municipal budget and PTI, which stands for the 3-year capital expenditure plan. The public notice has already been posted on Town Hall and online. On Saturday, December 16th, from 4:30 to 7:30, there will be the Santa drive-through at the fire station, where Santa Claus will be greeting children from the top of the ladder truck, I believe, and clear description and indications are given on the town's website. With regards to the Bridge Lane closures, I would expect that many of you have already seen the announcements and the gradual implementation of measures that have been put in place over the last few weeks. So again, perhaps to provide additional clarification, during a routine inspection carried out on Friday, a damaged section was detected on the underside of the concrete slab connecting the beams and serving as support to the circulation surface. So this is a different anomaly from the one detected on a structural beam mid-November, and which is still being corrected. This second anomaly is the one that has triggered that further reduction of lane from 3 to 2. And since Saturday morning, there have been measures in place to alleviate the increase in traffic. While the technical solution is known and the work procedure will start this week, once the slab is repaired, the third lane will be reopened. According to the Transport Ministry and the information some mayors received yesterday, it is expected that this work will take place within the next 2 months, and that by the end of January of 2024, they will be able to reopen the third lane. Once the original anomaly, so the beam defect, is repaired, the lane should be reopened to 5 lanes, along with the dynamic management of the lanes, where more lanes are provided in the direction of traffic in peak periods. This measure will remain until the bridge is replaced and operational, which is expected for the fall of 2026. So again, the mitigation measures that are in place and have been in place since the end of November are the additional train departures from Hudson and Vaudreuil, train extensions to and from Hudson morning and evening, and also additional departures on some bus lines. In the next week, there will be additional mitigation measures unfolding in 3 phases. So since Saturday, the toll on the A30 autoroute has been free to all and will continue to be so until the 3rd lane is reopened. Therefore, when the slab defect is corrected, so by the end of January of 2024. Starting this week, fares from and to the last 5 stations on the Vaudreuil-Hudson line will be free. So these are the stations between Ile-Perrot to Hudson. These are the stations that are off Montreal Island. Communications to this effect are already being deployed. As a next phase, EXO personnel will be at each of the 5 train stations on regular weekdays, not during holidays and not on weekends, handing out free passes for 2-way service on the train and also metro and bus. So this means that the train and the bus and metro will be free to people leaving from those 5 stations and returning to those 5 stations, to anyone boarding and getting off at those stations off island. And the 3rd phase will come into play once the 3rd lane reopens, where the gratuity will be removed of the toll and where there will be a reduced fare provided on the Hudson to Montreal train line, and booklets of 10 passes will be made available at a 25% reduction. There are additional mitigation measures that have been requested and that are presently under review. We meet with the Ministry of Transport approximately every 5 days or so, and where we receive updates on those mitigation measures that are under review and the feasibility of those being implemented. So for example, there has been the request of extending more trains from Vaudreuil to Hudson and Hudson to Vaudreuil, adding shuttle buses to John Abbott and Gérard Godin Cégep, adding shuttle buses from larger public parking areas to the train station in Vaudreuil. So as suggested by the Mayor of Saint-Lazare, for example, leaving from Côte-Saint-Charles and the 40 or from the shopping center on Harwood. Also, reducing hours when the trucks can cross the bridge would alleviate congestion. However, trucking is still considered key to the healthy economic development and continuation of the West Island and our area. Additional communications to the public and employers, motivating work from home practices and confirming safety of the bridge and public transport options, such as shuttles and additional parking available, have been requested. So I hope that this information will give you some solace or some encouragement as to the months ahead. They have reassured us that this is an unusual situation with regards to the reduction to 2 lanes only, and that they do not foresee that this will become a recurrent and repeated situation. So hopefully this will continue in a positive sense, but at least there are good communication channels, and we do feel that we are being consulted as we have a finer understanding of the impact of these measures and the situation on the lives and livelihood of our residents. Now, with regards to the progress on the RCI lifting on protection of natural areas, so this is the Règlement de contrôle intérimaire, the interim controls measure, there is a second change of schedule where the adoption of the first draft will rather be in January of 24, where a public presentation and workshop will be given on January 31st, and will be preceded with a notice in invitation mail-out period to the presentation and consultation, with a final adoption with or without changes that is anticipated for April of 24. Of course, this will be followed by the standard period of review by the MRC, so this is the regional board, where they have up to 120 days for their review of conformity to their regional master plan. You will see that at item 3.7 this evening, we will be presenting a resolution for the hiring of an external consultant, Marie-Hélène Gauthier, who has extensive experience in consultations or public consultation exercises with regards to the environment. So we feel very blessed with this process, and we feel that it will introduce the changes that we are proposing and look to raise raise any concerns, issues, and be able to integrate these changes as they may come, if they're necessary, into our process in due time. With regards to this evening's agenda, tonight you will see that there are resolutions for 4 TPAC files. The application period for a TPAC member, the period closed on November 10th. We received 5 candidacies. Each were submitted with a detailed letter of intent. There was a great diversity in a level of engagement, several from new residents, some returning years after years away, and moving back to their parents' hometown. On December 11th, we anticipate that we will be able to nominate the person and, of course, thank the rest of the candidates. This evening, you will notice as well that at the agenda item 6.3, we are nominating our Directrice Générale, Marie-Jacinthe Raberge, to the permanent position. This is an exciting period for us. It has been long in the coming and the preparation. Marie-Jacinthe has been, I think, a great find for us. We are very pleased, even though I think that all of us are pleased to know that Marie-Jacinthe comes with a lot of experience in paramunicipal. This is her first town. But Marie-Jacinthe has so many more other attributes that we would never have thought to go for and that are very complementary to Hudson, whether it's economic development or the understanding of the benefits of local tourism. I feel that we are very well accompanied by her experience in this direction. Now, merci. Donc, Martin Houd will continue with us, but at a reduced capacity in terms of time. He is now sort of changing hats. He will continue with us as team coach and project manager of larger projects, and also on-demand coaching of myself, of council, and Marie-Jacinthe as she may choose to call on his services. You will notice as well that this evening we are glad to be presenting a resolution to hire finally an environment technician who will be able to support the work of the Environment Committee. I'm looking at Mark Gray because this has been long in the coming and has been at times a source of small, I think, irritants, but we can laugh about it now. We certainly look forward to having this person within our team. As to decisional committees, the Demolition Committee met on November 29th of 2023 with regards to 710 Main, so where the replacement project was reviewed for SPAPE conformity, so this is Site Planning and Architectural Integration Program conformity, and this replacement project was unanimously recommended and favorably by TPAC in August and unanimously adopted by Council in September of 2023. So this again is an item that you will see, I believe it's item, we don't have it here. I don't know if the President of the committee would like to give a brief description on how the committee meeting went, the Demolition Committee went.
It was very simple. And very unanimous.
Excellent.
And it was approved.
Were there any people who voiced a concern with this demolition?
No, the only person in the audience was the owner of the property and the individual who is building this house apparently for his parents.
Excellent. And were there any conditions that were set?
No, there were no conditions that were set.
All right. Thank you very much. So again, with regards to the advisory committee, the TPAC will be meeting tomorrow to review 5 files, all of which are located on Main, except for one sign request on Cameron. It is the new restaurant that has just opened in replacement to
Wendigo's.
Wendigo's, thank you. The restaurant being called Portobello's. So I believe that is that. Did you want to give an update on the Environment Committee?
The bird-friendly city certification, which we did just recently get, which was great. And we met this month to sort of talk over next steps, because once you have the certification, it's not, you could lose it if you do nothing about it. So you really need to keep on it. But the committee is very enthusiastic to keep on going, and having this administrative help and connection to the administrative staff within the town is going to be just a fantastic resource and really pull it all together for us. So we're all very excited. And
you've already sort of looked at what your priorities would be for 2024 as well, where communications, developing tools and pamphlets on motivating people to reduce landfill, sort of redirecting garbage and those things.
A lot of communication really to start things off is the first priority.
Yep, I'm very excited to see all of this, so thank you. And also one of your members attended a site visit of 3, I believe it was treatment facilities where the region sends recycling and also I think it's waste or compost.
Yeah, that's right, compost, Tricentris recycling. And it was David Calant who went on this tour in my place, which was great that Chloe was able to sort that out. And a lot of great information that we're, of course, will be sharing in our upcoming communications with the citizenry, which will be...
Well, we're looking to motivate residents essentially to do better sorting so that we can continue to redirect what is in the garbage, to redirect it to the right places, so for reuse or for composting. And just to note that the heavier the amount that we send to composting, the more return we receive, so financial return. I forget what the exact number was for 2023, but we could pull those numbers and try to...
I think it was $80,000. How
much?
$80,000.
$80,000, I think.
That we got back as as the more waste we redirect from landfill towards recycling and composting, the more money we get back. So it's a money saver as well as good for the environment.
And that can be reinvested in better environmental procedures. So thank you for that, Mark. With regards to the circulation committee, did you meet?
We did.
And how did that go?
It was a somewhat short meeting, but it was very productive. I think we covered 3 major topics. Benoit, correct me if I'm wrong. We discussed moving. Some people may have noticed that the hidden driveway signs have gone up in town, so there was some discussion about moving the one on Cameron a little bit closer to the house that we wanted to indicate in question. There was some talking about a dead-end sign on which street, Benoit? Royalview. And the big one is tweaking the Mount Pleasant project, just changing a little bit of signage around. So far, we took a good first stab. We just need to make a couple of little tweaks, which should be coming through tonight. And the last thing is for people who pick up their mail on Evergreen/Wellesley, to encourage them to use the exit that is in place to get back onto Cameron and not to turn around in people's driveways, and there'll be some improved signage indicating where that lane is for people to take.
Thank you. I think also it's important to remind people that crosswalks are there to be respected, so please stop when you see a pedestrian standing at a crosswalk. These are safety measures. Often they're located close to a school. It is very important for parents as well to respect these. It is for the safety of our children, and to reduce, of course, speed as much as possible. We continue to have situations on safety around schools, and we're very concerned. So we ask that you help us in improving those situations. Thank you. With regards to meetings with the mayor, there will be the next meeting on Saturday, this Saturday, December 9th, from 10 a.m. to noon. Also, monthly meetings with the merchants. So the December meeting will be taking place on Tuesday, December 12th, I have in mind. Yes, that's it. From 5 to 7 at Le Corbeau et le Renard, situated at 472 Main. This is an open door, so anyone who wants to come and meet the new merchants. So this is essentially a new store where the owners are Erica McPhee and Stephen Hollander. Also, Isabelle Mercier of Développement Économique Vaudreuil-Soulanges will be present to give a brief overview of the services that are offered by the Regional Economic Development Group. Again, these are meetings really to keep a close communication between the merchants, ourselves, and other nonprofit organizers as well, as we continue to improve that relationship and to find ways to maximize visibility for the merchants, but also ways to alleviate the present economic strain on our merchants and look to keep as many doors open and the commercial core open, vibrant. Finally, I would like to personally wish the Jewish community a happy Hanukkah, beginning at nightfall on Thursday, December 7th to Friday, December 15th inclusively, a celebration centered around hope, resilience, and faith in better circumstances for all. I wish to convey a warm thank you to Rabbi Lapkowski for meeting and exchanging with me over the last few months, sensitizing me to the real necessity for people of all faiths and origins to feel welcome and seen among our inclusive and increasingly diverse community. In these times of terrible atrocities in the Middle East, my heart and warm thoughts also go out to all who are caught in this war between Hamas and Israel. The roots of this unrest run much deeper than I will ever fully understand, and in my view, it is important that we stand together in not allowing fear and harm triggered by this period of frightful damage to pervade the peace of our communities and the places where people have chosen to live well away from the unrelenting uncertainty and senseless cruelty of war. As such, I would like to highlight the exceptional richness of our community, forged by the diversity of our backgrounds, cultures, and traditions. Around every corner, our neighbors bring a variety of perspectives, contributing to the vitality of our social fabric. Whether you're celebrating a special holiday, observing a particular tradition, or simply going about your daily life, rest assured that your uniqueness is not only recognized, but it is also valued and respected. Together, let's work to shape a town where everyone, no matter their background, feels fully at home. Our differences are not simply distinguishing features, but elements that strengthen our community. Let's continue our efforts to promote inclusion, friendship between neighbors, and mutual respect. With this, let's move on. All right. So I would like to remind everyone that this meeting is being videotaped. When there will be questions at the mic or online, in the room, there are 2 people plus the people taking videos, and we're cheating because it's the spouses of Darren and I. So it's an empty room, but online there are 23 people, so this is still a decent show. I have done the word of the mayor, so we are moving to item 1.1, adoption of the agenda. So this resolution is that the agenda of the regular council meeting of December 4th of 2023 be and is hereby adopted as submitted. En français?
Est-ce que vous pensez pas à la reconnaissance des pompiers en début de séance? Ou vous
On peut, mais ils ne sont pas ici. Donc, on va les passer à l'item habituel.
Parfait.
Ça vous convient? We were expecting the firefighters to be here this evening, so they had been moved ahead, if you want. Mais est-ce qu'on le fait déjà dans l'item 7 points ou 9 points?
Non, il avait été déplacé au début de la rencontre, Madame la ministre.
OK, I will do that now. Je m'excuse. Between caucus meetings and between the actual meeting, there's sometimes shuffling. So here we go. Recognition of the firefighters' service. Darren, would you like to read it? Since this is usually a task I transfer to you.
All right, so recognition of the firefighters' service. On this December 4th, 2023, the Town of Hudson and the administration of the Hudson Fire Department wish to recognize the following firefighters. For the 10-year service bar, we are proud to congratulate the following firefighters: Robert Duma and Eric Goodkill. For the 15-year service bar, we are proud to congratulate Lieutenant Bruce Best. Also, Captain Peter LeBlanc has reached an important milestone by attaining 45 years of service in 2022. Finally, the Director of the Fire Department, Daniel LeBlanc, would like to thank all of his members for their efforts in 2023. Our firefighters and first responders faced unique challenges while maintaining an essential service to the citizens of Hudson. 75th anniversary of the Hudson Fire Department. The original fire department was created in 1948 and served the three villages of Hudson, Hudson Heights, and Como under the direction of the first fire chief named Lorne Dufresne, who was also the local police chief. Then in 1969, the three villages merged to form what is now known as the town of Hudson, and the Hudson Fire Department was renamed accordingly. The year 2023 represents the 75th anniversary of the Hudson Fire Department, which remains proud to serve its community and its citizens. And I thank them.
Thank you. Voulez-vous que je lise la partie en français?
Oui. Alors, reconnaissance des années de service de certains pompiers. En ce 4 décembre 2023...
Madame la mairesse peut le faire aussi.
Oh, voulez-vous le faire?
Ben, oui, j'allais offrir.
OK.
Donc, non, c'est parfait. Donc, reconnaissance des années de service de certains pompiers. En ce 4 décembre 2023, la Ville de Hudson et la direction du service des incendies de Hudson veulent rendre hommage aux pompiers suivants. Pour la barrette de service de 10 ans, nous sommes fiers de féliciter les pompiers Robert Dumas, Éric Godko. Pour la barrette de service de 15 ans, nous sommes fiers de féliciter lieutenant Bruce Best. Également, le capitaine Peter Leblanc a franchi une étape importante en atteignant 45 ans de service en 2022. En dernier lieu, le directeur du service des incendies, Daniel Leblanc, souhaite remercier tous ses membres pour leurs efforts en 2023. Nos pompiers et premiers répondants ont dû faire face à des défis uniques tout en gardant un service essentiel aux citoyens de Hudson. Le 75e anniversaire du service des incendies de Hudson. Le service d'incendie d'origine a été créé en 1948 et desservait les 3 villages de Hudson, Hudson Heights et Como sous la direction du premier chef pompier nommé Lorne Dufresne, qui était également le chef de la police locale. Puis, en 1969, les 3 villages ont été fusionnés pour former ce qui est maintenant connu sous le nom de la ville de Hudson et le service des incendies de Hudson a été renommé en conséquence. L'année 2023 représente le 75e anniversaire du service des incendies de Hudson, qui demeure fier de servir sa communauté et ses citoyens. Et comme le disait le conseiller Legault, nous les remercions infiniment. Merci. Thank you, Darren. So now we will be moving to the agenda, adoption of the agenda. So the resolution is that the agenda of the regular council meeting of December 4th of 2023 be and is hereby adopted as submitted. En français.
1.1, adoption de l'ordre du jour. La présente résolution vise à adopter l'ordre du jour de la séance ordinaire du Conseil du 4 décembre 2023, tel que soumis.
Do I have a mover? Moved by Benoit Blais, seconded by Peter Mate. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Section 2, confirmation of minutes. Item 2.1, confirmation of November 6, 2023 regular meeting minutes. This resolution is that the minutes of the council meeting held on November 6 of 2023 be and are hereby approved as submitted.
2, approbation des procès-verbaux. 2.1, adoption du procès-verbal de la séance ordinaire du 6 novembre 2023. Alors, la résolution vise à adopter le procès-verbal de la séance ordinaire du 6 novembre 2023, tel que soumis.
Do I have a proposer and a seconder? So, proposed by Reed Thompson, seconded by Mark Gray. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. So, first question period. There are 2 people in the room. Would you like to ask a question? No? I'm teasing them. All right. Are there any hands raised for asking any questions? There are no questions. We can hear the choir practicing behind us, so it's quite a nice effect. All right. Ça va? C'est bon? There are no questions. We will be then moving forward with Section 3, Urban Planning and Environment. Item 3.1, 20 Main for a SPAPE replacement plan. Whereas the owners of 20 Main want to demolish the existing house... Ah oui, t'es d'accord? Je suis désolée. Want to demolish, usually it is Peter Mate who reads these, so I just realized I don't usually read these anymore, but okay, j'y vais. Want to demolish the existing house in order to build a single-family construction, whereas the demolition request to come will be subject to the demolition committees, whereas an approbation request was received for a preliminary program for the utilization of 20 Main, whereas the Town Planning Advisory Committee's recommendation by majority was to refuse the SPAPE in support of the permit request. The unfulfilled criteria are to favor a rural or country architectural character with high-pitched roofs and exterior siding material to be in harmony neighboring buildings and the environment. Second one is to preserve the building's architecture and rural character with landscaping and features such as fences and signs that enhance the building. And this resolution, therefore, is to refuse the SPAPE request of the preliminary program for the utilization of the vacated land at 20 Main. En français.
Point 3, urbanisme et environnement, 3.1, 20 Main, PIA, plan de remplacement. Considérant que les propriétaires du lot situé au 20 Main désirent démolir la maison existante afin de construire une résidence unifamiliale isolée, la demande de démolition à venir est assujettie aux recommandations du comité de démolition. Une demande d'approbation en PIA a été reçue pour un programme de réutilisation du sol dégagé pour le 20 Main. La recommandation majoritaire du comité consultatif d'urbanisme de refuser le PIA, car les critères non remplis, soit de favoriser une architecture à caractère rural ou de villégiature avec des toits à pente forte et des matériaux de revêtement de façon à être en harmonie avec les bâtiments et le secteur environnant, et de préserver une architecture des bâtiments et le caractère champêtre avec des aménagements paysagers et des éléments tels les clôtures et les enseignes mettant en valeur le bâtiment. La présente résolution vise à refuser le PIA relatif au programme préliminaire de réutilisation du sol dégagé pour le 20 Main.
Merci. Peter, did you want to add some explanations as to the unfulfilled criteria? Peter is the president of Town Planning Advisory Committee. Also, Peter is available to the requesters if they would like to meet with them individually so that he can also transfer or explain some of the comments or some of the issues that were found with the file. We've done this in the past. It has been very useful where the items or the criteria that were not fulfilled are gone through, and some examples of what works or what might not have worked are usually discussed and then reported to the town and to me in a point form manner, just so that we have a record. And this has actually provided, I think, great success. From memory of having seen this file, it was really a question on, I think there were some improvements that were made since the original file was presented to council. There has been an increase to the size of the garage, which is now with a large door facing Main Road, which is seemed to be a distraction to the actual elegance of the rest of the building. So there were some benefits and some improvements, yet there was this addition of something that is considered to be a distraction and not an improvement. So I think it is in that sense that increase in footprint to the garage adds to the mineral surface as well to the site, and unfortunately goes backwards on some of the positives of its original design. Is that about correct?
Bang on.
All right. So I will need a mover. Peter Mate, seconded by Reid Thompson. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. It is adopted by majority. Moving on. Item 3.2, 898 Main SPAPE Replacement Plan. Whereas the owners of 898 Main want to demolish the existing house in order to build a detached single-family dwelling, whereas the demolition request to come will be subject to the Demolition Committee's recommendation, whereas an approbation request, je pense que c'est un autre mot, mais the approval request, I think is better, was received for a preliminary program for the utilization of the vacated land at 898 8, Maine, whereas the Town Planning Advisory Committee's unanimous recommendation to approve the SPAPE, this resolution, therefore, is to approve the SPAPE for the replacement plan at 898 Maine. En français.
3.2, le 898 Maine PIA, plan de remplacement. Les propriétaires du 898 Maine désirent démolir la maison existante afin de construire une résidence unifamiliale isolée. La demande de démolition à venir est assujettie aux recommandations du comité de démolition. Une demande d'approbation en PIA a été reçue pour un programme de réutilisation du sol dégagé du 898 Maine. La recommandation unanime du comité consultatif d'urbanisme d'approuver le PIA. Donc, la résolution vise à approuver le PIA pour le 898 rue Maine.
Merci. Do I have a mover? Peter Mate, seconded by Mark Gray. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Item 3.3, do you want to read this one?
Sure. 3.3 is 310 Main, so it's a modification to the approved SPAPE. A SPAPE of a permit request for major renovation works at 310 Main was approved by Town Council on August 7th. The applicants modified the approved SPAPE, requiring a new approval. The Town Planning Advisory Committee's recommendation by majority was to approve the SPAPE.
3.3, 310 Maine, modification au PIA approuvé. Un PIA relatif à une demande de permis pour des travaux de rénovation majeure pour le 310 Maine a été approuvé par le conseil municipal. Les demandeurs ont apporté des modifications au PIA approuvé nécessitant une nouvelle approbation. La recommandation majoritaire du comité consultatif d'urbanisme d'approuver le PIA. Donc, la résolution vise à approuver le PIA relatif à la demande de modification du permis pour le 310 Maine.
Parfait. Do I have a mover for this resolution? Peter Mate, seconded by Reed Thompson. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Do you want to read 3.4 or do you want me to do it?
Either way.
Item 3.4, I see the pattern. I get all the negatives and you get all the positives. So item 3.4, 517 Maine, modification to approve the SPAPE. Whereas a SPAPE of a permit request for a senior's residence at 517 Maine was approved by Town Council on November 7th, whereas the applicants modified the approved SPAPE, and this is November 7th of 2022, whereas the applicants modified the approved SPAPE requiring new approval, whereas the Town Planning Advisory Committee's unanimous recommendation to refuse the SPAPE. The unfulfilled criteria are the objective of minimizing the visual impact of a parking area by favoring side and rear setbacks, and number 2, the objective of minimizing the visual impact of a parking area with a focus on landscaping around parking spaces. This resolution thereby is to refuse the SPAPE of the permit modification request at 517 Maine.
3.4, le 517 Maine, modification au PIA approuvé. Considérant qu'un PIA relatif à une demande de permis pour une résidence pour personnes âgées située au 517 Maine a été approuvé par le conseil municipal le 7 novembre 2022, les demandeurs ont apporté des modifications au PIA approuvé nécessitant une nouvelle approbation. La recommandation unanime du comité consultatif d'urbanisme de refuser le PIA pour les critères non remplis. Alors, l'objectif de minimiser l'impact visuel d'une aire de stationnement visant à favoriser le stationnement en marge latérale et arrière n'est pas rempli. Et l'objectif de minimiser l'impact visuel d'une aire de stationnement visant à privilégier un aménagement paysager autour des espaces de stationnement. La résolution vise à refuser le PIA relatif à la demande de modification pour le 517 Maine.
So to run through this project rapidly, this is the project for multi-unit affordable housing with service for people older. I think it's retired and beyond people. This is a project that was begun by Villa Wyman. So this is the entity that was created at the sale of the church, of Wyman Church. This project was originally presented to us with nose-in parking. However, there's a technical difficulty with the nose-in parking, having to respect the width of the two-direction or two-way traffic lane plus, or the access lane plus the nose-in parking spaces means that the nose-in parking spaces would encroach lightly on the neighbor's property. Unfortunately, the negotiations between the neighboring property and this project were not conclusive, so the Villa Wyman project group have come back to us with a second proposal, which is for parallel parking, which fully fits on their lot and does not require negotiations or an agreement with their neighbors. In looking at this project, there is a sense that it would be better to locate those parking further back on the site that would alleviate the visibility of the parking, but also make for better circulation and better unity of the project. So essentially this is to motivate just a redesign of that parking layout and to move those spaces towards the back where there is more room. There is an actual extra notch where the nose-in would not bleed in onto the neighbor's property. So this is just an improvement. And if you have any additional questions, please come back again to Peter Mate, who was there in the discussions. And of course, this has been relayed to Council, and I believe that it is supported, or this orientation is supported by Council. So do I have a mover? Peter Mate, seconded by Reed Thompson.
En français ou non?
Ah oui, en français, on l'a pas lu? Je suis désolée.
Oui, c'est fait.
Oui, on l'a fait.
Oh, you fait?
Yeah.
Oui, on l'a
I
fait.
was asleep, I'm sorry.
No, I know. Just, I lose track as well. So are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hands. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Vous cherchiez qui avait appuyé et qui avait... Oui.
Reed.
Donc c'était les deux membres du CSU. All right, so that was it for the items pertaining to TPAC. Moving on to item 3.5, awarding of contract for the collection of Christmas trees. Whereas a Christmas tree collection will be held on January 8th of 2024, whereas the lowest bid by Trees and Beyond. This resolution is to award the contract to Trees and Beyond for the collection of Christmas trees for an amount of $240 per hour before taxes.
3.5, octroi de contrat, collecte de sapins de Noël. En considérant qu'une collecte de sapins de Noël est prévue le 8 janvier 2024, la plus basse soumission a été reçue par Trees and Beyond. Donc, la résolution vise à octroyer à Trees and Beyond le contrat de collecte des sapins à un taux de 240 $ l'heure avant taxe.
Merci. Et si je me souviens bien, if I remember correctly, there is no sign-up for this. It's an automatic collection that goes to the whole town. Do I have a mover? To my left, Reed Thompson, seconded by Mark Gray. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Item 3.6, awarding of contract for the maintenance of tertiary treatment systems with disinfection using ultraviolet radiation. Whereas several tertiary treatment systems with disinfection using ultraviolet radiation are present on the territory of the town of Hudson. Whereas the maintenance of the tertiary treatment systems using disinfection by ultraviolet radiation present on the territory of the town of Hudson is carried out by the following firms: Bionest, Hydrokinetic, and Premier Tech. This resolution is to grant a contract by mutual agreement for the maintenance of the Bionest tertiary septic systems to Bionest for a maximum amount of $37,008 plus applicable taxes for the year of 2024. To grant a mutual agreement contract for the maintenance of EcoFlow tertiary systems, septic systems, to Premier Tech for a maximum amount of $19,602 plus applicable taxes for the year of 2024, and to grant a contract by mutual agreement for the maintenance of the Hydrokinetic tertiary Septic systems to EnviroStep for a maximum amount of $3,777 plus applicable taxes for the year of 2024.
3.6, octroi de contrat, entretien des systèmes de traitement tertiaire avec désinfection par rayonnement ultraviolet. Alors, considérant que plusieurs systèmes de traitement tertiaire avec désinfection par rayonnement ultraviolet sont présents sur le territoire de la Ville d'Hudson, l'entretien des systèmes de traitement tertiaire avec désinfection par rayonnement ultraviolet présents sur le territoire de la Ville d'Hudson est fait par les firmes suivantes: Bayonnaise, Hydrokinétique et Premier Tech. La résolution vise à octroyer un contrat de gré à gré pour l'entretien des installations septiques tertiaires Bionest à Bionest pour un montant maximal de 37 008 $ plus les taxes applicables pour l'année 2024. D'octroyer un contrat de gré à gré pour l'entretien des installations septiques tertiaires EcoFlow à Premier Tech pour un montant maximal de 19 602 $ plus les taxes applicables pour l'année 2024. Et d'octroyer un contrat de gré à gré pour l'entretien des installations septiques tertiaires hydrokinétiques à EnviroStep pour un montant maximal de 3 777 $ plus les taxes applicables pour l'année 2024.
Merci. Do I have a proposer? Mark Gray, seconded by Reed Thompson. Are there?
Point of clarification.
Yes.
Just quickly, if you could remind me, how many homes does this cover? What would the number of, how many? So 90, so it's 61 divided by 90. Okay, so that gives us an idea of
It's a direct charge back to the owner.
I understand. Okay, it just seems more than what some of us discussed that we personally pay for our own bionests and so forth and so on services.
It is because it is UV systems. That's why it is more
These
expensive.
are all UV systems?
Yeah.
All of them?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Some have UV systems with the blue lights.
No, I said there are more. You're right. That's fine.
So we were back to, it was over here. I had two, it was Mark Gray and Reed Thompson. And are there any objections to this resolution? There are none. It is carried unanimously. Item 3.7, awarding of contract to Marie-Hélène Gauthier. Whereas the Town of Hudson adopted bylaw 525.3-2021, modifying the planning program, and interim control bylaw 750-2022. Whereas the Town of Hudson must adopt modifications to the existing urban planning bylaws in order to achieve the objectives of the protection of the natural environments established during the modification of the planning program in February of 2022. This resolution is to award a contract for support in the public consultation process to Ms. Marie-Hélène Gauthier for a maximum sum of $11,250 before taxes.
3.7, octroi de contrat, Marie-Hélène Gauthier. En considérant que la Ville d'Hudson a adopté le règlement 525.3-2021 modifiant le plan d'urbanisme et le règlement 750-2022 de contrôle intérimaire, la Ville d'Hudson doit modifier ses règlements d'urbanisme afin d'atteindre les objectifs de protection des milieux naturels établis lors de la modification du plan d'urbanisme en février 2022. La résolution vise à octroyer un contrat pour un accompagnement dans la démarche de consultation publique à Mme Marie-Hélène Gauthier pour une somme maximale de 11 250 $ avant taxe.
Merci beaucoup. Do we have a proposer? Mark Gray, seconded by Reed Thompson. Are there any objections to this resolution?
Doug proposait aussi.
Ah, j'ai pas vu. Je suis désolée. Are there any objections to this resolution? There are none. It is carried unanimously. Item 3.8, awarding of contract urban planning services contract permits and inspection, whereas the shortage of manpower in the field of urban planning and the lack of personnel within the urban planning division, whereas the high number of permit applications and requests received by the urban planning division, and that the assistance is necessary, whereas the public call for tenders AO-2023-20-U was issued by the Urban Planning Department on October 26th of 2023 and published on SEAO, whereas the following bids were received. There were 5 bids. Gestim Inc. with One Resource for $70,200, J'estime Inc. with a second resource for the same amount of $70,200, with Pari Plus for one resource at the amount of $89,100, Appur Créatif for the first resource of $113,400, and the same firm, Appur Créatif, for a second resource at $113,400. Considering the compliance analysis carried out, this resolution is to award to J'estime Inc., lowest conforming bidder, the contract for personal loan, permit, and inspection for one resource for an amount of $70,200 before taxes, and to award to J'estime Inc., lowest conforming bidder, the contract for personnel loan, permit, and inspection for a second resource for an amount of $70,200 before taxes, and that the total amount of the two resources is $140,400. So this is really to ensure that we have proper coverage next year with regards to improving the delay and the time on responding to permit requests, and to increase the quality of those services. Do I have a mover? Ah, pardon, je m'excuse.
3.8, octroi de contrat, contrat de service en urbanisme, permis et inspection. Considérant la pénurie de main-d'œuvre dans le domaine de l'urbanisme et le manque de personnel au sein de la division de l'urbanisme, considérant le nombre élevé de demandes de permis de requête reçues par la division d'urbanisme, un appel d'offres public AO 2023-20-U a été lancé par le service de l'urbanisme le 26 octobre 2023 et publié sur SEAO. Les soumissions suivantes ont été reçues. J'estime Inc. pour une ressource à 70 200. J'estime Inc. également pour une deuxième ressource au même montant, 70 200. Paris pour une ressource, 89 100. Et Appur Créatif pour deux ressources, la première 113 400 et la deuxième 113 400. L'analyse de conformité des soumissions a été faite et la résolution vise à octroyer à J'estime Inc., plus bas soumissionnaire conforme, le contrat de prêt de personnel, permis et inspection pour une ressource pour un montant de 70 200 avant taxe, et d'octroyer à J'estime Inc., plus bas soumissionnaire conforme, le contrat de prêt de personnel, permis et inspection pour une seconde ressource pour un montant de 70 200 avant taxe. La somme totale de l'octroi des deux ressources est de 140 400.
Merci beaucoup. Mover? Doug Smith, seconded by Peter Mate. I was waiting for his hand to come back up. Are there any objections?
Seconded by Benoit.
C'est Monsieur Smith et Monsieur Mate.
Peter.
Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Item 3.9, tabling of the minutes for Town Planning Advisory Committee, so TPAC, for the month of September of 2023. This is a simple tabling. There will be no voting. Members of Council take note of the tabling of the minutes for Town Planning Advisory Committee for that month.
Alors, 3.9, dépôt du procès-verbal du Comité consultatif d'urbanisme septembre 2023. Les membres du Conseil prennent acte du dépôt du procès-verbal du CCU.
Item 3.10 is the same but for the month of October. So members of Council take note of the tabling of the minutes for Town Planning Advisory Committee for the meeting that took place in October of 2023.
Alors, c'est le dépôt du procès-verbal du CCU, mais pour octobre 2023. Les membres du Conseil prennent acte du dépôt du procès-verbal du Comité consultatif d'urbanisme.
Merci. Item 311 is for the tabling of the monthly report for permits that were issued in the month of October of 2023. So members of Council take note of the tabling of the monthly report of October 23 for permits issued by the Urban Planning Department.
3.11, dépôt du rapport mensuel des permis émis octobre 2023. Les membres du Conseil prennent acte du dépôt du rapport mensuel des permis émis du service de l'urbanisme.
Merci. Section 4, Administration and Finance. Item 4.1, Approval of Disbursements for the month of November of 2023. This resolution is to approve the following disbursements as of November 23 of 2023. And as requested in previous question periods, I will add the amounts for the payroll. So for the subtotal of payments, it is $2,044,605.10. 2 payrolls were included, so payroll 23 and 24. So added to that subtotal. The first payroll of number 23 is for $115,653.60. The second payroll, which is number 24, is for $111,512.73, for a total of accounts paid of $2,271,771.43.
Alors, section 4, administration et finances, 4.1, approbation des paiements novembre 2023. La présente résolution vise à approuver le paiement des comptes au 23 novembre 2023. Le sous-total des paiements, 2 044 605 et 10 sous. La paie numéro 23, 115 653 et 60 sous. La paie 24, 111 512,73. Alors, le total des comptes payés est de 2 271 771 et 43 sous.
Merci beaucoup. Section 5, Town Clerk. Pardon? Ah oui, bon, je suis désolée. I'm trying. Yes, we do have to approve it. All right, are there a proposer? Benoit Blais, seconded by Peter Mate. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Sorry, it's the music. Honestly, listening to the choir, I was like, oh, that's so pretty. Anyway, so section 5, Town Clerk, item 5.1, MRCVS support for Toi d'abord. Whereas the MRC of Vaudreuil-Soulanges plans to grant financial assistance to the nonprofit organization Toi d'abord Habitation Abordable Vaudreuil-Soulanges to develop models to promote innovation in an attempt to resolve the housing crisis in the region. Whereas the town of Hudson has already paid to the MRC the amount of its contribution. This resolution is that the town of Hudson approves, in accordance with the attached table in Appendix B, the financial assistance granted to the organization Toi d'abord Habitation Abordable Vaudreuil-Soulanges for the purpose of developing models to alleviate the current housing crisis in the region, and that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to the Vaudreuil-Soulanges MRC.
Appui MRCVS Toi d'abord. La MRC de Vaudreuil-Soulanges prévoit accorder une aide financière à l'organisme sans but lucratif Toi d'abord Habitation Abordable Vaudreuil-Soulanges pour développer des modèles pour favoriser l'innovation, pour tenter de résoudre la crise du logement dans la région. La Ville de Hudson a déjà versé à la MRC le montant de sa contribution. La présente résolution vise à ce que la Ville de Hudson approuve, conformément au tableau joint à l'annexe B, l'aide financière accordée à l'organisme Toi d'abord Habitation Abordable Vaudreuil-Soulanges aux fins de développer des modèles pour pallier à la crise actuelle du logement dans la région et qu'une copie de cette résolution soit transmise à la MRC de Vaudreuil-Soulanges.
So the amount in Appendix B for Hudson is $6,762. It is representational, if I remember correctly, of 50% number of doors and 50% the RFU value. So that's foncière
Richesse foncière uniforme.
Oui, mais il y a un terme avant. And the total that is given by all 23 municipalities comes to $154,750. The expectation or the hopes is that this organization that was mandated by the municipalities of the region will be able to use this seed fund to generate more easily and more rapidly projects for affordable housing and not only social housing. So right now we have a regional board for housing. It is subsidized to 90% by la Société d'habitation du Québec. However, it is very sluggish in terms of response, and it is very difficult to get funding, and the process is very lengthy and weighted. So this is one of the ways that other municipalities, I believe, such as Drummondville, who have done this, have managed to start a side entity, so it's another nonprofit organization whose sole mandate is to prospect, essentially, and with this seed money, they'll be able to start 1 or 2 projects through donations of land from towns. I believe there's 2 already that are being considered in Vaudreuil-Dorion. There might be 1 in Pointe-Fortune. But the idea is that once they have a certain asset, they'll be able to leverage additional funds and then ramp up their operations. So this is an exciting measure. In years to come, so for 2024, the request is for $1 per door. So in Hudson, I believe the number of residents that is being used is from last year, so it's 5,600, and I have 12 in mind, but anyway, it's a number and it's $1 per door. Obviously, Toi d'abord would like us to increase, so for all municipalities to increase to $2 per door so that it will help them. Huh?
Citizen.
Per citizen. Ah oui, c'est vrai. Per citizen. So all this to say that for some municipalities, this was a difficult jump, and they weren't willing or able to make that jump. So we, in solidarity and for the ease of being able to, in fairness, to be able to recuperate what we put into it fairly and easily, it was easier for everyone to have the same measure. So that explains a little bit about Toi d'abord. Toi d'abord, the president on that board of administrators is Geneviève Lachance, the mayoress of Saint-Lazare. On their board, they have builders from the area, investors from the area, and also the general director of Vaudreuil-Dorion. So it is a very capable and very able entity, and they're very motivated to make this work. Did I have a mover? Benoit Blais, seconded by Reed Thompson. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. C'est la richesse foncière uniformisée. C'est ça que j'avais oublié. Bon. Item 5.2, notice of intent to declare jurisdiction over all local municipalities of the MRC of Vaudreuil-Soulanges in the planning of flood zones, lakes, watercourses, and their shorelines. This is for a withdrawal of the town, so keeping our competences and not giving them or handing them over to the MRC. Whereas the town deems it necessary to exercise its right of withdrawal concerning the jurisdiction declaration by the Vaudreuil-Soulanges MRC in the planning of flood zones, lakes, watercourses, and their shorelines. This resolution is that the town exercise its right of withdrawal concerning the jurisdiction declaration over all MRC Vaudreuil-Soulanges local municipalities in the planning of flood zones, lakes, watercourses, and their shorelines in accordance with the MRC's Council Resolution number 23-10-04-18 and to ratify said request, which will be forwarded to the Vaudreuil-Soulanges MRC.
5.2, avis d'intention de déclaration de compétence à l'égard de toutes les municipalités locales de la MRC de Vaudreuil-Soulanges dans le domaine de l'aménagement des zones inondables, des lacs, des cours d'eau et de leurs rives, retrait de la Ville. Alors, considérant que la Ville juge opportun d'exercer son droit de retrait à l'égard de la déclaration de compétence de la MRC de Vaudreuil-Soulanges dans le domaine de l'aménagement des zones inondables, des lacs, des cours d'eau et de leurs rives, la présente résolution vise à ce que la Ville exerce son droit de retrait à l'avis d'intention de déclaration de compétence à l'égard de toutes les municipalités locales de la MRC de Vaudreuil-Soulanges dans le domaine de l'aménagement des zones inondables, des lacs, des cours d'eau et de leurs rives, et ce, conformément à la résolution du Conseil de la MRC numéro 23-10-04-18, et que soit ratifiée la demande transmise en ce sens à la MRC de Vaudreuil-Soulanges.
So this is a competency that the regional board was looking to obtain from all municipalities. In their proposal to the 23 municipalities, they provided a breakdown on how much this would cost to individual municipalities. They were using numbers from previous years in terms of permits that had been provided and to the individual municipalities, and of course those that were adjacent to watercourses, and I mean rivers, and le fleuve Saint-Laurent were most penalized because of floods that we incurred. So this service was really to act as our approval board in terms of permits providing and to keep that technical ability or technical knowledge. And it was found by several municipalities that more work needed to be done. We need to be better convinced. And at this point, we had a maximum date by which we had to send in this resolution showing that we wanted to keep our competencies. So it doesn't mean that in the future we might not give it back, but at this time we feel that we are better served and at a more reasonable price through our local and in-house services. Do I have a mover? Peter Mate, seconded by Reed Thompson. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Item 5.3, privacy responsibilities. So this is for the appointment of a person in charge of the committee or on the committee. Whereas the act to modernize legislative provisions respecting the protection of personal information, which came in effect in September of 21, whereas the Act respecting access provides that an access to information and the protection of personal information committee is in charge of supporting the public body, considering the need to appoint a person responsible for the protection of personal information, so within the town's entity. This resolution is to appoint to the position of person responsible for the protection of personal information, the person, many people, with the highest authority within the organization, namely the Director General appointed pursuant to the resolution adopted at this meeting. En français.
5.3, nomination responsable à la vie privée. En considérant que la loi modernisant les dispositions législatives en matière de protection des renseignements personnels adoptée le 22 septembre 2021, l'article de la loi sur l'accès prévoit qu'un comité sur l'accès à l'information et à la protection des renseignements personnels est chargé de soutenir l'organisme public. Il y a lieu de nommer le responsable de protection des renseignements personnels. La présente résolution vise à nommer au poste de responsable de la protection des renseignements personnels la personne ayant la plus haute autorité au sein de l'organisme, soit la directrice générale nommée suite à la résolution adoptée à la présente séance.
Merci. Do I have a mover? Peter Mate, seconded by Darren Legault. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. So this is really, it was very administrative. It's an additional measure that the government has put in place, asking that internally there is a committee of review on requests for information that assures that protocol is being followed in the most, I guess, neutral way possible and the fairest way possible. 5.4, access to information protection. So this is related of individual information committee appointment. The Access to Information Privacy Committee was created by the resolution adopted in September of 2022. The membership of this committee must also be updated. So this resolution is that the Access to Information Privacy Committee report to the town's privacy officer or their delegate, and to appoint the persons occupying the following positions to the committee. So the town clerk, the assistant town clerk, the documents technician, the communications coordinator, and the human resources coordinator.
5.4, nomination au comité sur l'accès à l'information et à la protection des renseignements personnels. En considérant que le comité sur l'accès à l'information et la protection des renseignements personnels a été créé par résolution R 2022-09-254, la composition de ce comité doit également être mise à jour. Alors, la présente résolution vise à ce que le comité d'accès à l'information et de protection des renseignements personnels relève au responsable de la protection des vies privées de la ville ou à son délégué, de nommer au comité les personnes occupant les fonctions suivantes: greffière, greffière adjointe, technicienne en documentation, coordonnatrice en communication et coordonnatrice en ressources humaines.
Merci. Do I have a mover? Darren Legault, seconded by Reed Thompson. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Item 5.5, so Commission de Toponymie, appointment of a representative for the town of Hudson. So I just informed Reed that his colleagues had appointed him in his absence at the last.
Thanks, guys. Thank you so much.
Congratulations. Thank you.
So sorry, Reed. Whereas the town of Hudson must appoint a representative, this resolution is to appoint the town clerk as representative for the town of Hudson and to appoint Councillor Reed Thompson as municipal council representative to sit on the Commission de Toponymie. So, en français?
5.5, Commission de toponymie, nomination d'un représentant de la Ville de Hudson. En considérant que la Ville de Hudson doit nommer un mandataire, la présente résolution vise à nommer la greffière à titre de mandataire de la Ville de Hudson pour la Commission de toponymie et de nommer le conseiller Reed Thompson à titre de représentant du conseil municipal pour siéger sur le comité de la Commission de toponymie.
Thank you. Also, to specify, when we were discussing this, we could see that already in the past there had been mandates given to the Hudson Arts and Culture Council. So we saw this as eventually being a subcommittee or a mandate that could be given as required to the Hudson Arts and Culture Council, which they already perform. And since Reed is already a member of the Hudson Arts Council, that's why we thought that it was a logical, but I forgot to let you know. So, will you move the resolution?
Good sign, good sign.
So Reed Thompson and supported by Darren Legault. Are there any objections to this resolution? There are none. It is carried unanimously.
De se nommer lui-même.
Ah, vous aimez pas ça? No. Okay, so let's propose someone else. So Darren Legault is proposing, seconded by Mark Gray. Thank you.
So Darren and Mark. Thank you.
Good point, Madame McCutcheon.
Thank you.
Just shows his enthusiasm for his new role.
We have high expectations for you. So essentially, what is it? C'est la commission. C'est quoi? C'est on the French Language Act. Comment ça marche? We receive regularly communications from an entity, a provincial entity, l'Office de la langue française, thank you, l'OLF, with regards to some non-conformities on our street names. So there are still some out there that we need to correct. And also when we are choosing new street names, not that it happens very frequently, we have to pass them by the governmental's committee. So a proposal or an explanation as to why a street was chosen must be given. All right. Merci. So item 5.6, additional premium addendum. This is for l'FAMQ insurance. Considering that the renewal requires, in certain respects, certain adjustments following the data recently provided, this resolution is to proceed to the payment of 2 invoices received from the FQM. So this is le Fonds d'assurance des municipalités du Québec for the amount of $3,961.06 and the amount of $696.51, including the insurance premium tax reflecting certain adjustments to the insurance coverage for the year of 2024. So this is essentially a simple adjustment. Madame McCutcheon.
5.6 sur prime avenant assurance FAMQ. Considérant le renouvellement nécessite à certains égards certains ajustements suite aux données récemment fournies. Alors, la présente résolution vise à procéder au paiement de 2 factures reçues de la FQM, qui est le Fonds d'assurance des municipalités, au montant de 3 961 et 6 sous et au montant de 696,51 incluant la taxe sur les primes d'assurance, reflétant certains ajustements apportés sur la couverture d'assurance pour l'année 2024.
Merci. Do I have a proposer? Mark Gray, seconded by Darren Legault. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Item 5.7, legal opinion for the SQ overpayment. So SQ stands for Sûreté du Québec. Considering that the local municipalities of the regional county municipality of Vaudreuil-Soulanges, so the RCM, or we also call it the MRC in French, are served by the Sûreté du Québec for their police services, local municipalities pay the Minister of Public Security directly for this service, whereas these payments are made in accordance with the applicable Act and regulations. They result in the payment of a rebate not to the local municipalities, but rather to the MRC. And we say rebate, but it is really a return on what was overcharged. Whereas the MRC redistributes this return to local municipalities within its territory, whereas the redistribution method was modified in 2021 at the request of several local municipalities since it was considered inequitable, whereas the judgment Ville de Vaudreuil-Dorion versus Municipalité Régionale de Comté de Vaudreuil-Soulanges of 2023 declared that the 2021 resolution was valid with the exception of the retroactivity of the new method of distribution by the MRC for the year 2020. And whereas the MRC has sent an invoice of $519,563 to the town of Hudson for the year of 2020, namely the sum of $360,977 as reimbursement of the redistribution paid to the town of Hudson in application of the calculation method implemented by the 2021 resolution, and the sum of $158,586 as the negative share of the redistribution to which the town of Hudson would be entitled in application of the redistribution method implemented in 2006. Whereas the town of Hudson notes that the MRC has imposed negative value redistributions totaling, in the case of Hudson, of $316,454 over the years. This resolution is to forward the correspondence to the MRC outlining the town of Hudson's position and intentions regarding the invoice of 2023-00215 issued by the MRC in connection with the distribution for the year of 2020, and more generally regarding the amounts claimed without right by the MRC in connection with the redistribution from the Ministry of the amount from the Ministry of Public Security, and to initiate discussions with the MRC and other municipalities of the MRC territory concerning the redistribution of this amount, particularly for 2020, and to request the MRC to modify its approach to the redistribution of the Minister of Public Security's overcharge for Sûreté du Québec's police services so as to avoid any illegal billing of local municipalities, including the town of Hudson, and to request the MRC to schedule a meeting with the 23 local municipalities to discuss the modification of this redistribution method.
Avis juridique, trop perçu SQ, Sûreté du Québec. Les municipalités locales de la municipalité régionale de comté de Vaudreuil-Soulanges, la MRC, sont desservies par la Sûreté du Québec pour leurs services de police. Les municipalités locales paient directement le ministre de la Sécurité publique pour ce service. Lorsque ces paiements sont effectués conformément à la loi et à la réglementation applicable, ils entraînent le versement d'une ristourne, non pas aux municipalités locales, mais plutôt à la MRC. La MRC redistribue cette ristourne aux municipalités locales comprises dans son territoire. Le mode de redistribution de la ristourne a été modifié en 2021 à la demande de plusieurs municipalités locales puisqu'il était considéré inéquitable. Le jugement Ville de Vaudreuil-Dorion contre municipalité régionale de comté de Vaudreuil-Soulanges de 2023 a déclaré la résolution de 2021 valide, à l'exception de la rétroactivité du nouveau mode de répartition par la MRC pour l'année 2020. La MRC a transmis une facture de 519 563 sous à la Ville de Hudson pour l'année 2020, soit une somme de 360 977 000 à titre de remboursement de la ristourne versée à la Ville de Hudson en application du mode de calcul mis en place par la résolution de 2021 et une somme de 158 586 à titre de part négative de la ristourne à laquelle la Ville de Hudson aurait droit en application du mode de répartition de la ristourne mis en place en 2006. Considérant que la Ville de Hudson constate que la MRC lui a imposé des ristournes à valeur négative totalisant 316 454 la présente résolution vise à transmettre à la MRC une correspondance exposant la position de la Ville de Hudson et ses intentions quant à la facture 2023 002-215 émise par la MRC relativement à la redistribution de la ristourne pour l'année 2020 et plus généralement quant aux sommes réclamées sans droit par la MRC en lien avec la redistribution de la ristourne du ministre de la Sécurité publique d'amorcer des discussions avec la MRC et les autres municipalités du territoire de la MRC en lien avec la redistribution de la ristourne, particulièrement pour l'année 2020, et de demander à la MRC de modifier son approche quant au mode de redistribution de la ristourne du ministre de la Sécurité publique pour les services policiers de la Sûreté du Québec, de manière à éviter toute facturation illégale des municipalités locales, dont la Ville de Hudson, et finalement de demander à la MRC de planifier une rencontre avec les 23 municipalités locales pour discuter de la modification du mode de répartition de la ristourne.
So this is in following with the opening that I had made last month, but essentially the method of redistribution has been corrected. We now do receive a share. Whether it is the fairest way of calculating the share remains to be confirmed, but it is fairer than it was in the past. So there were several years in the case of Hudson between the years, and I'm going from memory, of 2014 to 2019, where I think that skipped 1 year, where we were actually paying out of our pocket for this redistribution of money that had already been paid to the SQ and was returned to the MRC to be redistributed if they wished. So it's just to say that a method of calculation that they had adopted, so the mayors had adopted in 2006, was generating this anomaly, which wasn't corrected, even though it had been signaled by at least one municipality years ago. Finally, it was corrected, and it means that now, I mean, on a yearly basis, our bill to the SQ last year was $1.8 million. In years before, it was closer to 1.6 or 1.7. And the return that we now receive of this redistribution, proportional to what we put into it, is closer to $360,000 per year. So you understand that with the judgment that came through, where 3 municipalities, including Vaudreuil, had gone against the MRC, asking that the old method continue to be applied, but also that the resolution changing the method of calculation that was adopted in 2021 not be valid. The judge confirmed that the resolution was valid, but it could not be retroactive and include 2020. So essentially, this is really to settle 2020, but there are amounts that predate 2020 that do add up to a significant amount, which is that $316,000, which we would like to recuperate as well. So that's essentially what it is. Do I have a proposal? So Reed Thompson, seconded by Benoit Blais. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. This is carried unanimously. Item 5.8, tabling donations registry of 2023. So the town clerk tables the register of statements of donations, marks of hospitality, or other advantages received by council members in 2023.
5.8, dépôt au registre des dons 2023. Alors, je dépose le registre des déclarations pour les dons, marques d'hospitalité ou autres avantages reçus par les membres du conseil en 2023. Et je vous informe que je n'ai reçu aucun enregistrement de dons, marques d'hospitalité ou autres avantages qui a été reçu par les membres ou la mairesse.
The clerk also gives precision that she has received no signaling of any donations, marks of hospitality, or other advantages that council may have received. I believe it's amounts over $200 that have to be declared.
250 or
250. I remember 200, but it doesn't matter. Close enough. So none were received, so none were declared. Item 5.9, tabling disclosure of pecuniary interest. The town clerk tables, in accordance with Section 358 of the Act respecting elections and referendums in municipalities, the duly completed and signed updated statements of pecuniary interest of the mayor and the 6 councillors.
5.9, dépôt, déclaration des intérêts pécuniaires. Alors, je dépose devant le Conseil, conformément à l'article 358 de la Loi sur les élections et les référendums dans les municipalités, les déclarations de mise à jour des intérêts pécuniaires dûment complétées et signées de la mairesse et des 6 conseillers.
Ça, c'est à chaque année. On répète la même chose. So every year, We have to essentially update if we have acquired any properties, if we owe anything to anyone that may have an influence on our decision, and also declare any affiliations that we may have or any contracts that we may have with the town that are monetary. Section 6, Human Resources, item 6.1, closure of municipal offices during the holidays. Whereas the statutory holidays for the Christmas holidays are as follows: Christmas Eve, December 24th, Christmas Day, December 25th, Boxing Day, December 26th, New Year's Eve, December 31st, New Year's Day, January 1st, the day following New Year's Day, January 2nd, and one floating holiday, which traditionally is in previous years, was kept and added to the holidays. So this, whereas the Public Works Department provides an on-call service during this break, this resolution is that the town of Hudson be closed for the holidays from December 23rd of 2023 to January 2nd, 2024 inclusively. The town's normal activities will resume on Monday, January 3rd of 2024 at 8 a.m.
That should say Wednesday, Mrs. Mayor.
Wednesday, January 3rd?
Yeah. Thank you.
Ah oui, c'est vrai. Between French and English, we have a discrepancy. Thank you, Darren.
Yep.
And that the maximum amount allocated to this, no, I need a little more intro. So also part of this resolution is to invite, so council invite the employees and town council to a Christmas dinner in the spirit of recognizing the efforts of staff and providing a festive environment conducive to team building, and that the maximum amount allowed to this dinner will be $4,000 before taxes. Merci.
Alors, section 6, ressources humaines, 6.1, fermeture des bureaux municipaux pour le temps des fêtes. Le jour des fêtes chômés et payés pour le temps des fêtes sont les suivants: la veille de Noël, 24 décembre, la fête de Noël, 25 décembre, le lendemain de Noël, 26 décembre, la veille du jour de l'an, 31 décembre, le jour de l'an, 1er janvier, le lendemain du jour de l'an, 2 janvier, et un congé mobile qui, traditionnellement, par les années passées, était conservé pour ajouter au congé des fêtes. Le service des travaux publics offre un service de garde pendant la période de fermeture. Alors, la présente résolution vise à annoncer que la Ville de Hudson soit fermée pour le congé des fêtes à compter du 23 décembre 2023 jusqu'au 2 janvier 2024 inclusivement. Les activités normales de la Ville reprendront à 8 heures le mercredi 3 janvier 2024. Et la présente résolution vise à vous informer que les membres du Conseil invitent les employés et le Conseil à un dîner de Noël dans l'esprit de reconnaître les efforts du personnel et d'offrir un environnement festif conducteur à du renforcement de l'esprit d'équipe. Et un montant maximal alloué à ce dîner sera de 4 000 $ avant taxe.
Merci beaucoup. Do I propose Darren Legault, seconded by Reed Thompson? Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously.
It's Mr. Thompson and Mr. May.
It was Mr. Legault and Mr. Thompson.
Okay.
Item 6.2, probation, November 20. Pardon?
Tout le monde est d'accord?
Oui.
No? OK.
6.2, probation, November 2023, whereas Resolution 2023-03-79 to hire the employee 1023 to the position of Director of Culture and Recreation Department of the Town of Hudson. The probation period of the employee 1023 expired on October 10th of 2023. This resolution is to confirm that the probationary period of the employee ended on October 10th of 2023 and to confirm the position of Director of Culture and Recreation retroactive to October 11th of 2023.
6.2, probation, novembre 2023. Considérant la résolution R 2023-03-79 d'embaucher l'employé 1023 au poste de directrice au service de la culture et des loisirs de la Ville d'Hudson, la période de probation de l'employé 1023 est venue à terme le 10 octobre 2023. La présente résolution vise à confirmer que la période de probation de l'employé 1023 s'est terminée en date du 10 octobre 2023 et de confirmer dans son poste de directrice de la culture et des loisirs activement en date du 11 octobre 2023.
Merci. So this is, of course, for Elizabeth Wainwright, who's been with us since, I think, just a little bit around Easter, around that period. We're very pleased with her. She's a young member of our personnel, very capable, very lucid, and certainly has handled and taken in hand some important files for us and recuperated some awkward times for us as well. And I feel strongly that under the mentorship of Marie-Jacinthe, who has extensive experience, I think, in culture and in the field that Elizabeth is in, but also as needed, if needed. Martin will also be there if we need him, but Elizabeth is a wonderful asset to our team, and we're very pleased to have her part of us permanently. So proposer, I see Darren Legault's hand and Reed Thompson. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. It is adopted unanimously. So welcome, Elizabeth. Item 6.3, this is the fun one. This is the one we've been waiting for. We've been holding this over her head. No, I'm teasing her. Item 6.3, appointment to the position of Director General. So considering the adoption of Resolution R 2023-05-126, hiring of the Assistant Director, so that was in May, whereas the integration period of 6 months expired on November 29th of 2023, whereas the town wishes to appoint Ms. Marie-Jacinthe Roberge to the position of Director General. This resolution is to appoint Ms. Marie-Jacinthe Roberge to the position of Director General, a full-time management position, and that this appointment be retroactively effective to November 30th of 2023, and to authorize the mayor to finalize the terms and conditions of appointment for and in the name of the town, if need be, as well as any documents required to give effect to this resolution.
6.3, nomination au poste de directrice générale. Considérant la résolution R 2023-05-126, embauche directrice générale adjointe, que la période d'intégration de 6 mois de travail est à échéance le 29 novembre 2023, la Ville désire nommer Mme Marie-Jacinthe Roberge au poste de directrice générale. La présente résolution vise à nommer Mme Marie-Jacinthe Roberge au titre de directrice générale, poste cadre à temps complet, que cette nomination soit effective rétroactivement au 30 novembre 2023 et d'autoriser la mairesse à finaliser les modalités de nomination pour et au nom de la Ville, le cas échéant, ainsi que tout document requis pour donner plein effet à la présente résolution.
Merci. Proposer? Darren Legault, seconded by Mark Gray. He holds his hand up for the whole employee section is what he does, just so you know, Mark. He's got this down pat. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. I'll read that as it is adopted unanimously. Félicitations, ma belle. Well deserved. I would like everyone to note that this will be her first budget that we will be presenting for adoption next Monday. It has been an interesting period, as always. And I think that your strength of character and your ability to work and to adapt and to listen, I think are very strong, and I'm very pleased to see that in you. Your ability as well to work with a very diverse group of personalities.
And counsel.
And counselor, and I meant that as well. I did. So you are a true asset to our group, and I thank you. I also would like to thank Martin, of course, for accompanying us in the process of finding you and bringing you on board. And I think the transition, as he taught me from the beginning, the goal needed to be towards a successful delivery. And so I feel that it's sort of like giving birth. We have successfully delivered a very capable Director General, and I no longer have to call you the Director General in making, or la Directrice Générale en devenir is what I had called her for several months. So again, well done.
Merci, très apprécié.
Bienvenue. Bon. Alors, item 6.4, hiring of building monitors. Whereas for the operation of the department, it is necessary to hire 2 candidates at function 702 building monitor, a posting took place, and whereas the selection, evaluation, and interview process were carried out, this resolution is to hire the following candidate as building monitor function 702 in the community planning department, so Alyssa Bartlett and Kaylee Sheehan, and that the hiring be effected as of today, and that the position is unionized part-time, and that the hourly rate be $16.40 as provided for in the collective agreement.
6.4, embauche moniteur de salle. Alors, considérant que pour le bon fonctionnement du service, il est nécessaire d'embaucher deux candidats à la fonction 702 moniteur de salle. Un affichage a eu lieu. Le processus de sélection, d'évaluation et d'entrevue des candidatures également. Alors, la résolution est à l'effet d'embaucher les candidats suivants au titre de moniteur de salle, fonction 702, au service de la culture et loisirs, Alyssa Bartlett et Kelly Sheehan. Et l'embauche soit effective dès la présente, que le poste est syndiqué à temps partiel, que le taux horaire soit de 16,40 $ tel que prévu à la convention collective.
Merci. Do I have a mover? Darren Legault, seconded by Mark Gray. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Prepare your hands. I'll do one on each side. Item 6.5, and I'll start left. Team coaching and special projects. Considering Resolution R 2023-12-301, appointment to the position of Director Manager or General Director. Directrice Générale, whereas the position is now filled by an incumbent and the acting general manager's contract expires on November 30th of 2023. This resolution is to retain the services of Mr. Martin Houd, retroactive to December 1st of 2023 in accordance with the agreed terms and conditions, and that the term of said service contract shall be for a fixed period of 6 months on the basis of a minimum of 12 hours per week. En français.
6.5, mentorat d'équipe et projets spéciaux. Considérant la résolution R 2023-12-301, nomination au poste de directrice générale, que de directeur général.
Oui, j'ai eu le même réflexe.
Ouais. Que le poste est maintenant avec un titulaire et que le contrat du directeur général par intérim est à échéance le 30 novembre 2023. La présente résolution vise à retenir les services de M. Martin Houd rétroactivement au 1er décembre 2023 selon les modalités convenues et que la durée du dit contrat de service sera d'une durée déterminée de 6 mois sur une base de 12 heures minimum par semaine.
Moving left, Reed Thompson had his hand up first. To the right, Peter Mate. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hands. There are none. So again, merci infiniment, Martin, pour votre accompagnement qui est toujours très, très apprécié, toute l'intelligence et les considérations, votre côté très stratégique, mais aussi votre grande expérience. Donc, merci encore d'avoir accepté de continuer à nous suivre et nous accompagner. C'est sûr qu'à 12 heures par semaine, je pense que... Gentiment, il est en train de nous sevrer. Je pense que c'est ça qu'il fait. Je pensais que c'était supposé d'être pour 12 mois ou 24 mois. Là, je vois que c'est 6 mois. Mais bref, on va prendre ce qu'on peut. Et puis, on va continuer dans ce sens-là. Mais on est très satisfait, évidemment, des services de M. Houd. Et je pense que l'équipe l'apprécie infiniment aussi. So that is that. Item 6.6, awarding of contract group insurance, whereas the town has committed to maintain and manage an employee collective insurance, and that the employer's contribution is 75% of all premiums, whereas the awarding of said contract must be following a call for tender process, whereas a call for tenders was issued on September 14th of 2023 on SEAO, whereas only one bid was received from Manuvie for the amount of $232,444.56, whereas according to the proposed new rates, the monthly premium will increase by 44%. This resolution is to award the group insurance contract for health and dental coverage to Financière Manuvie, in accordance with the quote received and reviewed by our broker, Ms. Joanne Dumouchel, retroactive to November 1st of 2023. The only conforming bidder for an amount of $232,444.56 before taxes, and that the employer's contribution be a monthly amount of approximately $15,900 before taxes, for an annual amount of approximately $200,000 before taxes, and that the contract for health and dental coverage be for a period of 12 months, renewable on November 1st of 2024.
Octroi de contrat assurance collective, considérant que la Ville s'engage à maintenir et gérer le régime d'assurance collective et que la contribution de l'employeur est de 75% du paiement des primes. L'octroi de ce contrat doit se faire s'est fait au terme d'un processus d'appel d'offres. Un appel d'offres a été lancé le 14 septembre 2023 sur SEAO. Une seule soumission a été reçue de Manuvie au montant de 232 444,56. Selon la proposition de nouveaux taux, la prime mensuelle augmentera de 44 %. La présente résolution vise à octroyer le contrat d'assurance collective pour les garanties santé et dentaire à la financière Manuvie, conformément à la soumission reçue et révisée par notre courtière, Mme Joanne Dumouchel, rétroactivement en date du 1er novembre 2023. Le seul soumissionnaire conforme pour un montant de 232 444,56 sous avant taxe. La contribution de l'employeur soit d'un montant mensuel d'environ 15 900 $ avant taxe, soit un montant annuel de 200 000 $ avant les taxes, et que le contrat pour les garanties santé et dentaire soit d'une durée de 12 mois, renouvelable le 1er novembre 2024.
Merci. A couple notes on this would be that the employees were met and asked if they wanted to revisit the terms of their coverage in order to reduce the part, because this is also representing an increase to them. It is absolutely going to have an impact on the liquidity, on their paycheck. And this was clearly explained what the options were and where there might be some cost savings, and they had the opportunity to vote on this, and given the opportunity twice to vote on this, and both times majority won where they chose to maintain present coverage, and our position was to follow them in this sense where health and care of our employees is important, and we would like to support them in their ability to maintain health. So I see his hand is up already. Darren Legault proposes, seconded by Reed Thompson, sorry. I'll try to balance a little bit more. Oh, Peter, c'est appuyé de Peter Mate. Je vais essayer d'équilibrer quand je regarde d'un côté à l'autre. Are there any objections to this resolution? Okay. Donc c'est adopté à majorité.
Est-ce que c'est enregistré?
Item 6.7, letter of agreement number 16. Whereas the collective agreement between the town and the union on December 23rd of 2016 expired on October 27th of 2022. Whereas both parties are in the negotiation process for the renewal of the collective agreement, whereas the last increase in salaries took place on October 28th of 2021, the anticipated increase in group insurance premiums associated with the renewal of the group insurance contract. This resolution is that the town agrees to pay to all employees covered by the collective agreement and who are still employed at the time of approval of the present as a lump sum, an amount equal to 2.5% of the salary paid during the period of October 28th of 2022 to October 27th of 2023, less any and all applicable deductions and withholdings as an advance on any salary retroactivity which may be negotiated between the town and the union as part of the renewal of the collective agreement. And that consequently any amount paid by the town as an advance to employees hereunder shall be deducted from any amount that may be due to them as retroactive pay following the signing of the collective agreement. This resolution is also to authorize the Director General to sign said letter of agreement for and on behalf of the town and any other documents required to give effect to this resolution.
Lettre d'entente numéro 16, la convention collective entre la Ville et le syndicat, considérant la convention collective entre la Ville et le syndicat le 23 décembre 2016 est venue à échéance le 27 octobre 2022. Les parties sont en processus de négociation pour le renouvellement de la convention collective. La dernière indexation des salaires a eu lieu le 28 octobre 2021. L'augmentation anticipée au niveau des primes associées au renouvellement du contrat d'assurance. La présente résolution vise à ce que la Ville convient de verser à tout salarié couvert par la convention collective et toujours à son emploi au moment de l'approbation de la présente, un montant forfaitaire correspondant à 2,5 du salaire versé pour la période du 28 octobre 2022 au 27 octobre 2023, moins les déductions et retenues applicables, et ce, à titre d'avance sur la rétroactivité salariale qui sera négociée éventuellement entre la Ville et le syndicat dans le cadre du renouvellement de la convention collective. Que par conséquent, tout montant versé par la Ville à titre d'avance aux salariés en vertu de la présente résolution sera déduit de tout montant qui pourrait leur être dû à titre de rétroactivité salariale suite à la signature de la convention collective, et d'autoriser la directrice générale à signer la dite lettre d'entente pour et au nom de la Ville et tout autre document requis pour donner effet à la présente résolution.
Mover, Darren Legault, seconded by Mark Gray. Sorry. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. It is adopted unanimously. Again, this is a bridge gap solution to provide some relief to the employees who have also, as us all, been under tighter strain, economic strain with regards to the increase of cost of life, living expenses. And this will provide them some relief as we continue and complete the negotiation process, and this amount will be taken into account in the final agreement. So, est-ce qu'on l'a adopté? Oui, hein, c'est adopté. Item 6.8, hiring of the Urban Planning Department, Environment Technician. I'll be looking left first. Function 601, considering that Function 601, Environmental Technician for the Urban Planning Department, has been vacant since January of 2023. Considering that for proper functioning of the Urban Planning Department and its environmental sector, it is necessary that this position be replaced. A posting took place, and whereas the selection process, assessment, and interview of applications took place, this resolution is to hire Ms. Sofia Fuga as an environmental technician, function 601 for the Urban Planning Department, and that the hiring of Ms. Sofia Fuga be effective as of January 8th of 2024.
6.8, embauche au service de l'urbanisme, technicienne en environnement, fonction 601. Alors, la fonction 601, technicien en environnement pour la division d'urbanisme, est dépourvue de son titulaire depuis janvier 2023. Pour le bon fonctionnement du service d'urbanisme et du secteur environnement, il est nécessaire que ce poste soit remplacé. Un affichage a eu lieu. Le processus de sélection, d'évaluation et d'entrevue des candidatures également. La présente résolution vise à embaucher Mme Sofia Fuga au titre de technicienne en environnement, fonction 601 au service d'urbanisme, et que l'embauche de Mme Sofia Fuga soit effective dès le 8 janvier 2024.
Merci. Do I have a proposer? Mark Gray proposes, seconded by Peter Mate. Sorry, I have to balance the tables a little bit. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. So welcome, Ms. Fuga. We look forward to working with you. We've been waiting for you for many, many months. So we're very excited that you picked us. And we really have a lot of projects and plans for you, so get ready. Item 6.9, insurance renewal for accidental death or dismemberment policy, which is also the acronym is AD&D. The town undertakes to maintain and administer an accident insurance plan for firefighter employees. This resolution is to renew the firefighter accidents insurance contract with the FQM Assurance in accordance with the proposal received, and that the annual premium be $1,280 before taxes, plus tax on a 9% insurance premium, for a total of $1,395.20 for the coverage period of December 31st of 2023 to December 31st of 2024.
6.9, renouvellement de la police d'assurance décès ou mutilation accidentelle. Alors, considérant que la Ville s'engage à maintenir et gérer un régime d'assurance accident pour les employés pompiers, la présente résolution vise à renouveler le contrat d'assurance accident des pompiers à la FQM Assurance conformément à la proposition reçue, que la prime soit d'un montant annuel de 1 280 avant taxe et s'ajoute la taxe sur une prime d'assurance de 9 pour un total de 1 395,20 sous pour la période de couverture du 31 décembre 2023 au 31 décembre 2024.
Merci. Do I proposer? Darren Legault, seconded by Peter Mate. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hands. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Section 7, Culture and Recreation, Item 7.1, March Break Day Camp 2024. Whereas the town wishes to offer a March Break Camp for the year of 2024, whereas a third party, L'Air en Fête, is able to offer its services for the 2024 March break. This resolution is that the town accept the offer of service of the firm L'Air en Fête as operator of the 2024 March break camp and agrees to the term therein for a maximum of $2,850 before taxes. I don't think it's a third party, it's just an alternate party or an external consultant. C'est pas une tierce partie, c'est pas la third party. It's not a third party.
Ben, c'est le fournisseur.
Oui, mais on n'appelle pas ça third party en anglais. En français, on dit tierce partie. Anyway, c'est pour ça. Parce que aller compter, c'est qui la deuxième? Mais bref. Do I have a mover? Oui, pardon, en français.
Culture et loisirs. 7.1 camp, semaine de relâche 2024. La Ville désire offrir un camp pour la semaine de relâche pour l'année 2024. L'Air en Fête est en mesure d'offrir ses services pour la semaine de relâche 2024. La présente résolution vise à ce que la Ville accepte l'offre de la firme L'Air en Fête à titre d'opérateur du camp de la semaine de relâche 2024 au terme indiqué dans la dite offre pour un maximum de 2 850 avant taxe.
Moved by Reed Thompson, and it is seconded by Peter Mate. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Section 8, Public Works, Item 8.1, Road Network, No Parking Zone, Mount Pleasant Street. This is the resolution that Reed was referring to. So the Circulation Committee has, in its meeting, reviewed the situation, and the improvements that they propose are included in this resolution. So they go as follows. Whereas the Traffic Committee recommended that the proposed restricted parking zone be extended further for security reasons, this resolution is to proceed with the installation of no stopping signs limiting stopping between 7:30 a.m. and 8:30 a.m. and between 2 p.m. and 3 p.m. on the west side of Bellerive Street in a southerly direction between Mount Pleasant Street and Mount Pleasant Street. So it's because it's an L and there's another connecting. Yeah. So it's 2 points on the same street. To proceed with the installation of no stopping signs limiting stopping between 7:30 a.m. and 8:30 a.m. and between 2 p.m. and 3 p.m. on the west side of Upper McNaughton Street in a southerly direction between 121 Upper McNaughton Street and 140 Upper McNaughton Street, to proceed with the installation of no stopping signs on the east side of Mount Pleasant Street in a northerly direction between the entrance of the school drop-off point and 91 Mount Pleasant Street, and to proceed with the installation of a no-turn sign on the south side of Mount Pleasant Street in an easterly direction between the entrance to the school drop-off point. En français.
Section 8, travaux publics. 8.1, réseau routier, zone d'interdiction de stationnement, rue Mount Pleasant. En considérant que le comité de circulation a recommandé que la zone de stationnement restreint proposée soit agrandie plus loin pour des raisons de sécurité, la présente résolution vise à procéder à l'installation, à approuver l'installation de panneaux d'interdiction d'arrêt limitant l'arrêt entre 7h30 et 8h30 et entre 14h et 15h du côté ouest de la rue Belle-Rive en direction sud entre la rue Mount Pleasant et la rue Mount Pleasant, de procéder à l'installation de panneaux d'interdiction d'arrêt limitant l'arrêt entre 7h30 et 8h30 et entre 14h et 15h du côté ouest de la rue Upper McNaughton en direction sud entre le 121 rue Upper McNaughton et le 140 rue Upper McNaughton, de procéder à l'installation de panneaux d'interdiction d'arrêt du côté est de la rue Mount Pleasant en direction nord entre l'entrée du débarcadère de l'école et le 91 rue Mount Pleasant, et de procéder à l'installation de panneaux d'interdiction de demi-tour du côté sud de la rue Mount Pleasant en direction est avant l'entrée du débarcadère de l'école.
Merci. So these additional restrictions on parking, turning are really the result of observations in this area where we're noting that there's a lot of people using driveways to turn around. More notably on Belle-Rive, they're blocking people's entrances and parking, so entrances to their property. So we remind people that this is private property, and it would be, I don't think that most people would appreciate having people parking in your driveway and keeping you from leaving as they are dropping off their children at school or picking them up. I believe that the situation is worse in the afternoon than it is in the morning. However, there are also other behaviors that are noted, such as U-turns at the intersection of Belle-Rive and Mount Pleasant just in front of the school. So again, all of these measures are there to really motivate parents to send their children to school using the school bus. This is a very complex and difficult area to manage with lots of signs, proliferation of signs, the presence of the SQ. And I remind you that this is for the safety of your children and not out of our personal pleasure that we are installing or having installed all of these restrictions. So please think about children and perhaps consider driving through a different part of town during those periods, during the school periods, and also to be considerate of the people who live around this area and who have to as well compose with these cars that are either blocking their passage or making it very dangerous for them as well to circulate. Do I have a mover for this resolution? Benoit Blais, and seconded by Reed Thompson. Are there any objections to this resolution? There are none. It is carried unanimously. Item 8.2, road network installation of stop signs. So this is an additional measure on Mount Pleasant Street. Whereas the crosswalk at Mount Pleasant and Belle-Rive intersection is often not respected, the crosswalk is used by students and parents accessing the school, so these are people who walk to school often. Considering that the security of pedestrians in a school zone is a priority of the town, this resolution is to proceed with the installation of stop signs at the intersection of Mount Pleasant and Belle-Rive in both directions on Mount Pleasant Street as a pilot project, and that this pilot project be reviewed at the end of the school year in the summer of 2024.
8.2, réseau routier, installation, panneau d'arrêt rue Mount Pleasant. Le passage pour piétons à l'intersection de Mount Pleasant et Belle-Rive n'est souvent pas respecté. Le passage pour piétons est utilisé par les élèves et les parents qui accèdent à l'école. La sécurité des piétons dans une zone scolaire est une priorité de la Ville. La présente résolution vise à procéder à l'installation de panneaux d'arrêt à l'intersection de Mount Pleasant et Belle-Rive dans les deux sens sur la rue Mount Pleasant comme projet pilote et que ce projet pilote soit revu à la fin de l'année scolaire à l'été 2024.
Proposer, Benoit Blais, seconded by Reed Thompson. Are there any objections to this resolution? There are none. It is carried unanimously. There are no items in public safety, section 9, so moving to section 10 on bylaws. Item 10.1, bylaw 763-2023 regarding outdoor fires for adoption. Whereas notice of motion of the bylaw was given at the regular sitting of Municipal Council held on November 6th of 2023. Whereas the proposed bylaw tabled on November 6th of 2023 was amended as follows, and there are quite a few modifications, so please bear with me. Number 1, by inserting a new section at the beginning of Chapter 2, reading as follows. Section 4, the provisions of the present chapter apply to all outdoor fires, by replacing in Section 13 and 14 of the English version the terms flammable and inflammable, respectively, by the terms combustible and incombustible. By inserting a new section at the beginning of Chapter 3, reading as follows. Section 14, the provisions of the present chapter apply to all open-air fires, by inserting a new section at the beginning of Chapter 4, reading as follows. Section 18, the provisions of the present chapter apply to all large-scale open-air fires, by removing the term general from the title of Part 1 of Chapter 5, by inserting a new section at the beginning of Part 1 of Chapter 5, reading as follows. Section 26, the provisions of the present part apply to all outdoor fireplaces, by removing Section 23 of the proposed bylaw, by modifying Section 24 so that it reads as follows. Outdoor fireplaces must be configured in such a way that any clearance complies with the manufacturer's specifications. By modifying in the English version the title of Part 2 of Chapter 5 so that it reads as follows. Provisions pertaining to outdoor fireplaces for businesses in commercial zones, by inserting a new section at the beginning of Part 2 of Chapter 5, reading as follows. Section 28, the provisions of the present part apply to all outdoor fireplace for businesses in commercial zones, by modifying Section 25, reading as follows. Wood-burning outdoor fireplaces may only be used from November 1st to March 31st, from 6 p.m. on Friday to 10 p.m. on Sunday, according to commerce business hours. Notwithstanding the above, outdoor wood fireplace fires may be permitted by the Town Council by resolution for any special event. By adding the term positionné in the French version of Section 27 so that it reads as follows. L'emplacement du foyer extérieur doit être positionné à ce que les employés aient une vue dégagée sur le foyer en tout temps à partir de la vitrine avant du commerce, en plus de s'assurer avant de quitter les lieux et dans le cas d'un foyer à bois, que le dit feu soit complètement éteint, and by renumbering the sections taking into account the addition of the new sections, whereas the purpose of this bylaw is to provide safety standards surrounding outdoor fires, this resolution is to adopt the bylaw 763-2023 regarding outdoor fires as amended.
Bon, à section 10, le règlement 10.1, adoption règlement 763-2023 sur les feux extérieurs. Considérant qu'un avis de motion du présent règlement a été donné à la séance ordinaire du Conseil municipal tenue le 6 novembre 2023, considérant que le projet de règlement déposé le 6 novembre s'est vu modifié de la façon suivante. Par l'insertion d'un nouvel article au début du chapitre 2 se lisant comme suit. Article 4, les dispositions du présent chapitre s'appliquent à tout feu extérieur. Par le remplacement aux articles 13 et 14 de la version anglaise seulement des termes flammable and inflammable, respectivement par les termes combustible and incombustible. Par l'insertion d'un nouvel article au début du chapitre 3 se lisant comme suit. Article 14, les dispositions du présent chapitre s'appliquent à tout feu à ciel ouvert. Par l'insertion d'un nouvel article au début du chapitre 4 se lisant comme suit. Article 18, les dispositions du présent chapitre s'appliquent à tout feu à ciel ouvert de grande dimension. Par le retrait du terme général dans le titre de la section 1 du chapitre 5, par l'insertion d'un nouvel article au début de la section 1 du chapitre 5 se lisant comme suit. Article 26. Les dispositions de la présente section s'appliquent à tout feu de foyer extérieur. Par le retrait de l'article 23 du projet de règlement, Par la modification de l'article 24 afin qu'il se lise comme suit. Les feux de foyer extérieurs doivent être installés de manière à assurer tout dégagement en conformité avec les spécifications du fabricant. Par la modification dans la version anglaise du titre de la section 2 du chapitre 5 afin qu'il se lise comme suit. Provision pertaining to outdoor fireplace for business in commercial zones. Par l'insertion d'un nouvel article au début de la section 2 du chapitre 5 se lisant comme suit. Article 28. Les dispositions de la présente section s'appliquent à tout feu de foyer extérieur d'un commerce en zone commerciale. Par la modification de l'article 25 se lisant comme suit. Les feux de foyer extérieurs au bois seront uniquement permis du 1er novembre au 31 mars de l'année suivante, entre 18 h le vendredi et 22 h le dimanche, selon les heures d'ouverture du commerce. Nonobstant ce qui précède, les feux de foyer extérieurs au bois peuvent être permis par le conseil municipal par résolution pour tout événement spécial. Par l'ajout du terme « positionné » dans la version française de l'article 26, se lisant comme suit, l'emplacement du foyer extérieur doit être positionné à ce que les employés aient une vue dégagée sur le foyer en tout temps, à partir de la vitrine avant du commerce, en plus de s'assurer, avant de quitter les lieux et dans le cas d'un foyer à bois, que le dit feu soit complètement éteint. Par la renumération des articles en tenant compte de l'ajout des nouveaux articles, et considérant que ce règlement vise à apporter des normes de sécurité entourant les feux extérieurs, la présente résolution vise à adopter le règlement 763-2023 sur les feux extérieurs tel que modifié.
I have a proposer, Benoit Blais, seconded by Mark Gray. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. So obviously this bylaw took a lot of work and exchange amongst us. Security is definitely of importance to this council. There are elements, of course, that are, we hope to sensitize merchants and others to being respectful and also managing their fires, especially when there are a lot of crowds around the fire. We know that children can easily get burned, making marshmallows or others, so it would be very, very important to make sure that you have someone outside during those busy periods that is actually looking at and managing the fire from right next to it. This is an item that certainly came to the table a couple of times, so it remains a concern. We would like to be tighter on the management of this right, essentially, but we also recognize that the ambiance that is offered by the wood-burning fires and this permission are also an added benefit. So we ask for the collaboration of the merchants to work with us and to keep this as a safe environment and to be mindful of those who may not always be thinking about their own safety. Item 10.2. Application, authorization, and issuance of tickets, designation update. Whereas it is vital for good management to periodically review the designated persons having jurisdiction to issue violation tickets, notably to reflect changes in the organization of the town. Whereas Bylaw 763-2023 regarding outdoor fires is submitted for adoption at this council meeting, and in order for the bylaw to be validly implemented, council must designate by resolution the persons authorized for the application of the said bylaw. This resolution is to appoint the persons designated in Appendix A, attached hereto, as designated officers having jurisdiction for the enforcement of the bylaws listed below, as well as all their amendments, therefore enabling them to issue statements of offense.
10.2, autorisation d'application et d'émission de constat, mise à jour des désignations. Considérant qu'une saine administration exige la révision périodique des personnes désignées aux fins de la délivrance des constats d'infraction, notamment afin de tenir compte des changements dans l'organisation de la Ville, le règlement 763-2023 sur les feux extérieurs est soumis pour adoption à la présente séance et que pour que son application puisse être valablement faite, le Conseil doit désigner par résolution les personnes autorisées aux fins de l'application du dit règlement. Alors, la présente résolution vise à nommer les personnes désignées à l'annexe A jointe aux présentes à titre d'officiers désignés pour l'application des règlements municipaux énumérés ci-dessous, de même que tous les amendements et ainsi leur permettre d'émettre des constats d'infraction.
Merci. So this is a 6-page document really going through each bylaw that the town has and determining who or what title, what position has the authority to issue these infractions. And in the case of this bylaw, the three positions that are named are the fire department director, the firefighters, and the preventionist. So it's really the fire department who will be controlling this bylaw. Do I have a proposer to my right? Benoit Blais to my left. Reed Thompson, sorry, Mark. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand.
Puis Reed, c'est ça?
Benoit Blais? Oui.
C'est Benoit et Reed. And it is carried unanimously. Item 10.3, bylaw 743.3-2023, amending bylaw 743-2021 regarding parking. So this is a harmonized bylaw, a regionally harmonized bylaw 330-2021. It is for a notice of motion and tabling of the draft. So I will need a councillor to give notice of motion that he would move or cause to be moved at a subsequent session of the council, the adoption of the bylaw 743.3-2023, amending bylaw 743-2021 regarding parking RMH 330-2021. And the councillor would be?
Should be Reed.
Reed Thompson.
He's coughing.
So these are the two councillors who, again, sit on the circulation committee. Donc, c'est Reed Thompson. And the purpose of this bylaw is to update the parking bylaw. Donc, en français.
Dépôt du projet règlement 743.3-2023 visant à modifier le règlement 743-2021 relatif au stationnement RMH-330-2021. Alors, le conseiller Thompson donne avis de motion à l'intention de soumettre pour adoption à une séance ultérieure du Conseil le règlement 743.3-2023 visant à modifier le règlement 743-2021 relatif au stationnement RMH-330-2021. L'objet de ce règlement est de mettre à jour le règlement de stationnement.
Excellent. Merci beaucoup. Are there any items under Section 11, new business? Go ahead.
Yeah, I'd just like to mention that I had the privilege over the last month to attend the executive meeting of the Legion, the executive board, which I'm a member through this role that I have. And also I attended the general meeting that they hold, I believe, every 3 or 4 months. There's a monthly executive and I think 3 or 4 general meetings throughout the year. The atmosphere is great. I was well received. The town is being well received. The executive and the members were very happy with the agreement having been reached, very appreciative. They seem to have gotten a spring back in their step. They're rejuvenated. They're an energetic group. They do a lot. It's really phenomenal. And essentially all around positive. And they were appreciative. They wanted to get the message out. They received me well at both meetings. And they have plans. They've been working, I believe, with Marie-Jacinthe and the members of the town to make sure that the agreement is held to and the repairs and, you know, some minor, some not so minor, but very pragmatic, very realistic, and I think it's a positive win-win on that one, and I'm happy to feed that back. They have delayed their next executive meeting from the 6th of December to the 13th, at which point they will be proposing for the general membership their new budget, which will include the repayment plan for the back taxes that they have with the town. So it's really being addressed. I think they were ready for it. Chloe and I had sat in, or we had some meetings with them, and they're organizing around getting it done right. So I tip my hat to them. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Darren, for this update. I think the relationship is sound. I think that's, you know, we had to get the emotions out of there, and now we're into the working part of the relationship. I know that The generator is supposed to be connected at some point. We sort of, lost track, but I know that Martin is very adamant for the winter that we make that happen. So at some point, I believe that will take place. And we are aware that, as many buildings in the town, there's been a lack of love on our part. And so we plan on putting in place some plan over several years for all of our buildings. And we'll take that underhand. But thank you so much.
Thank you.
Are there any other items? No? There are none. So we are on to the second question period. I see one hand up. Okay, I will start. I see it's Jim's hand up, but I'll give the floor to Helen, who's in the room, who came in. I understand the bridge traffic was 3 hours it took you to get from work to this meeting. Yeah, you want to start with Jim? All right. So these are my past co-counselors, or Darren and my co-counselors, so we feel very close to them. That's why we speak to them in their first name. So Jim, please go ahead. Yes,
good evening. First, I'd like to start with this. The Bradbury Boardwalk replacement is completed just before the snow really flew, and it's a beautiful job. And I highly commend the collar guys that put that together, engineered that project, and I hope that that is going to be extended to the boardwalks else that are in serious need of tender, loving care elsewhere in the town.
Thank you, Jim. I appreciate the feedback. In our plans at this point, there are 5 des passerelles, so walking bridges or anyway, des passerelles, you would know what that is, that are planned for boardwalks, yeah.
Pedestrian paths, yeah.
Pedestrian bridges, and I believe 3 are in the Bradbury area, so that might be one of them, and then there are 2, there's the McNaughton one and the one crossing the Vivry towards Sandy Beach. And I'm going from memory. Marie-Jacinthe, I'm looking for an approval, so it's a yes. But yes, it is our intent to continue in improving the condition of those boardwalks and trails. And as well, as Reid will like me to remind everyone, it is absolutely in our plans, and I believe that we are working on the tender document for public tender with regards to the master plan for parks and trails and green spaces to start early in 2024.
Okay, now I have 2 questions about detail tonight. 3.8, the permits and inspections hiring, Gestim, $140,000. I fail to understand what use they're going to be put to. My understanding is there's about 80% of the town that does not come under any architectural control. So am I to assume that this means that the administrative approvals are going to be made by contractors and that there is no input from council or elected or appointed staff? I fail to understand their function.
So as you've probably heard me say in the past, and I believe this was a situation that past council is also already running into, staffing in the urban planning department has been short. We are short, and I'm going from memory, 3. We've just nominated a person in environment, so that brings it down to 2. There is a short in inspections for buildings and permits, and there is that short in providing permits. So what we had been doing, certainly this year, and I believe the year before, was to hire an external firm to bridge the gap again. So because we couldn't find employees or suitable candidates, or was able to attract candidates on the market for full-time positions, we had to resort to hiring external consultants. So these are really for regular permits. So all construction and renovation projects must go through a permit approval process. Only those that are in the SPAPE areas that you should know by now, so along Main Road and in the core, and the new developments are subjected to the review of the Town Planning Advisory Committee, and the recommendations of that advisory committee are then received by council, who then confirms or not the recommendation made by TPAC. So that only covers, as you said, a part of those permits, but the others must conform to the bylaws, and that is really the job of the employees, the town employees, to make sure that what is being proposed respects the elements in the bylaw, so zoning, construction, subdivision, all of those. And so in 2023, we had 2 people, and I'm going from memory, but they were only there for 1 to 3 days each, and we felt that there wasn't sufficient overlap, and also that some files were often having to wait a whole week before they were carried forward or brought to the next level, which was creating undue delays in the approval process. And this was certainly a critique that we received countless times from the merchants, for example, but also people looking to do renovations and improvements or construction projects.
I understand. This is just a continuation of the problems that we've had for well, at least 2 terms. The other issue is 513, and that's the MRC's SQ rebate protocol procedure, and that $519,000 bill that we got from them. The resolution that you adopted tonight, there's a lot of wishful thinking in this. Have you taken this to the Quebec Municipal Commission? Is this being adjudicated at in any public or private court?
So the first step for us was to validate our position with the legal consultant, which was done. So it's a lawyer of Lavery lawyers, and so she's reviewed the elements, les éléments de la preuve, and proposed several strategies to us, so that it is clear that it is not provided in the law, or it's not legal for the MRC to be charging a town for services that they're not able to provide and that doesn't belong to them to provide. So that's step 1. With regards to the rest of it, it is our request, and will be made in the letter, to have that mediation. The first step to that is to have a mediation with all of the mayors present at the table to explain the situation and to ask for their consideration on a better or more equitable share of that 2020 amount, for sure, and then also possibly to answer to whether the new math is the most equitable approach. There have been a couple of comments around the table at the regional level that suggest that perhaps it is not the best, and I think that that needs to be reviewed so that we can close the file once and for all. So yes, that was our due diligence. We have done it through a legal consultant, and we expect that if mediation with the 23 or discussions with the 23 don't generate a favorable outturn for us, that we may suggest to move to the CMQ, who are also in such situations where there can't be an agreement found with all, where they are asked to serve, and that is their role, as mediator between 2 parties who hold differences, and they will assist us through that. What I have learned in that, because of course it seemed like the most natural and easiest way was to go directly to the CMQ, but I'm told that the CMQ's waiting period can be quite long, so it was suggested to us that we try this route first and that we move to the CMQ alternative as an alternate route.
Okay, that's good. Thank you very much. I'll leave it to other people to ask about the bridge.
Excellent.
Thanks.
So Helen is coming to the mic.
Helen Kurganski, sorry, I missed a little bit more than half the meeting. Instead of my normal 30 minutes getting here from work, it took me 3 hours.
I'm sorry.
Il autour oblige. It's a nightmare. Anyway, I would need some clarification on 5.2. Could you explain what it is, this notice of intent to declare jurisdiction over all local municipalities of the MRC of Vaudreuil-Soulanges and the planning of flood zones, lakes, watercourses, and their shorelines? and withdrawal of the town. I don't know what does that mean. Could you, perhaps you explained it and I missed it, but if you would.
No, it's one of those nebulous, so there's been a change in the law where competency for the maintenance or the management of those areas, so floodplains, I'm going to read it in English, floodplains or flood zones, lakes, water courses, and their shorelines, where it's possible for the region to acquire the competences as long as each town gives it, and it has been the decision, or my recommendation to council, and also the direction chosen by several other municipalities that the town should keep its competence and not give it to the MRC, because in the redistribution of, or the proposed redistribution on the cost of this added personnel that the MRC would have and its download onto each municipality didn't seem as being fair, and we felt that we could better serve ourselves with, the delays that are met at the MRC level, but also in terms of knowing our territoire, it was easier and better for us to keep that competency.
So if I understand correctly, is the MRC is proposing to take care of our flood zones, our lakes, our watercourses, and shorelines, and then charge back the town.
Correct.
So now the town is what's the status quo now? Is the reality is the town is Hudson responsible for all our floodplains, the lakes, watercourses, shorelines? Are we responsible for all that maintenance and for the protection of it?
There's different levels in the law, you're right, where as soon as you're detached from les berges, from the shoreline, it belongs to the federal government. As soon as you're touching all of those, there's certain works that still require validation by the local entity, but also have to be validated with the region. So they're still shared, if you want, double verification. But we didn't want to give it all to the MRC, and we feel that we know our area better. So there are some items, like for example, maintaining the flow of streams and ditches and whatever. It belongs to the MRC to ensure that flow is kept. Mm-hmm. Right, so what they do, it's not related to this, it's a separate thing.
Okay,
they still come, yeah, they still come and say there's a beaver dam or something that's blocking and creating floods in agricultural areas. A farmer can call the MRC and say, I'm being flooded, can you please look at the water course in my area? The MRC comes, does a study, does the work to remove the dam or the obstruction, and then will charge it back to le bassin versant, so bassin versant is sort of like the catch basin, is that it? Catch basin, yeah. Of the water course. So it can be split, and it's according to, say the water course, let's say it's the Vivry, runs through St. Lazare, Vaudreuil, and Hudson, so depending on the area of this flood zone or whatever that's I just called it, is then shared in proportion with the municipalities. So the obstruction might be on Hudson's property, but St. Lazare and Vaudreuil also have to pay into it.
Okay, so
is
this a new proposal by the MRC at one of your meetings, to change the way things are?
Correct.
And what's the reasoning behind doing that? Did they explain that?
Without looking to be too critical of how the MRC operates, but any opportunity that they have, they will propose that they take on the responsibility. What we're learning is with a big region such as ours, with the 23 municipalities that have very different realities, more urban, more agricultural. In some instances, smaller municipalities might like it that the MRC takes on the competency, so they don't have to take care of it already. But in the cases of urban areas where we already have a department that already looks after that, for us, it will probably turn into additional delays and additional costs rather than being a good thing. So there's both sides of the table. In some instances, for example, arts and culture, as you know, the competency was handed to the MRC when the opportunity was given, as they are working on visibility and deploying arts and culture at a regional level, which is more than a town can necessarily do or do well. But in this case, we feel that we are better served by our own services.
And I missed the vote, so the council was unanimous in that. I'm just
really have a long conversation about it around the council table, because even the way it was presented to us at the regional level was very high level and very, Marie-Jacinthe was with me when they presented it, and there were too many questions, and even to ask ourselves, do they have the staff at the MRC level? They are also very short-staffed in their departments, so there were a lot of questions, but because there's a time limit to by when we can remove ourselves, otherwise we have to be charged. For us, it was important that we adopt this resolution.
Okay, no, that's fine. I just needed a clarification. Yeah. As I said, I apologize for having come late, but beyond my control. And I do have a second question, if you allow me. It's for the past, since 2011, the town there's been the lighting of the menorah as part of the Festival of Lights of Hudson, and actually I have to congratulate the town. The town has been lit up beautifully, and it's wonderful setting, a beautiful setting for the Christmas holidays. But Hanukkah is this week, and normally there would be there would be an event just for the first night where there would be the lighting of the menorah, and the community would be invited to celebrate that. And Hanukkah is this coming week. Thursday is the first night. And I looked in the town, and I haven't seen any notice or mention of this. And I was wondering, as I said, since 2011, it's been a tradition of the town to do it. So I wonder what happened to that. Can I have an explanation, please?
Sure. So I had sent an email to the Rabbi Lapkowski in September and asked that we sit and meet as through successive situations, whether it was the cultural object that was also a symbolic object through the sculpture that was offered by Marcel Breitstein that was tentatively installed a couple of times at Halcrow Cottage, and the difficulty of maintaining that object or operating with that object. Then as a palliative situation, because it came so late, we offered this area for temporary installation, as was done, I think, 1 or 2 years. But always these permissions were sort of done on the sly without obtaining council's review and approval. And so I was looking to regularize this situation several times in speaking with council about the situation. They made it very clear that position of majority is that we need to separate church and state, and to, while we are diverse and culturally diverse, and we respect the fact that everybody has different backgrounds and different choices, we also, it is important for us that there not be that return of where we know that religion came and influenced political decisions. It was a choice in the Quebec province and government to separate the two. So for us, it was important to keep that separation, and I had offered to the rabbi to help him find a different location in Hudson that would be more cultural, that would not be political and not be owned by the town. So we had a conversation. It was awkward at times, but I have to also mention that the war had just begun. So even though it took about 2 or 3 weeks for him to return, and to set the meeting, it was very tense. I think that I understand the situation. I have a lot of empathy for what people might be going through, as much in Palestine or in the neighboring countries and Israel. But somewhere, I think it's important for us to separate that very difficult and very painful and destructive situation, and to not bring all of that trauma back into our streets. So he asked me to come back to council and to sensitize them to perhaps this is not the best year to be setting a hard line in the sand. I did. I also offered an alternative, which would be to, and this was unilateral, so it was me going against council, and offered alternate places that would not be in front of a building but on municipal parks. And so eventually I did receive an answer, and at this time the menorah will be installed on a park, in a park, and it will be up to the rabbi to put it up, to make sure that it has electricity, that it is lit, and to take it down in due course. As you remember, last year it was left for months and months because the foot had been caught in ice, and we received a lot of comments and concerns. And I think that at some point it's just healthier for us to draw a hard line and to say we are separating church and state. We see this as a cultural event, but we do not want to be negatively or influenced in any matter politically. This should not be a political gesture. So I think that through the development of the cultural policy that we will have this discussion again, and hopefully we'll come to some sort of understanding or approach or strategy that can be accessible to all people who have a certain background or faith. It could be Palestinians who come and ask to have something put on in the town, and we'll have to work on how will we frame that. And at this time, the rabbi has thanked me for this measure, for this time, and has asked as well that we continue our conversations into 2024 and look to a way to make it more permanent. So all that to say that the permission that was given to him in years past were always done through the mayor, and as you know, were not always discussed or shared with council, and I would like this to become something that is not done through the back door. It is not a fait accompli. It is not an acquired right, but something that is done with the full support of council and community and does not need to be a divisive topic.
And it's just been a tradition since 2011, and it's been a cultural tradition. There are other municipalities in the region of Montreal that do have it and allow it. There's all over the world, actually, they have it as a cultural.
I think I've been very accommodating,
and
Helen.
I just don't understand. It was a cultural event. It's not a religious holiday, and like Christmas, like the Christmas tree, like the lighting of the lights. It was part of that tradition. And the other thing that you brought up, you brought up the war. What's the war and what's happening elsewhere have to do with the lighting of our menorah in our town?
It was raised as an absolute reason for not changing the way that the town had operated in the past, as this was a particularly difficult time for people of Jewish faith who are feeling persecuted, and that and it was explained to me that this gesture could be perceived as a direct anti-Semitic gesture. So again, when the conversation turns very forceful in this sense, it stops being a cultural tradition. And that is exactly what we were looking to draw a boundary with. And I'm comfortable with the position. Again, it's going against council's wish. So I need to rebuild that element of what will be acceptable for at least the next 2 years and moving forward. I believe I've developed a good working relationship with the rabbi. I'm very pleased with that, and I think we have to build on that and continue. I'd asked him if there would be a celebration, because there's usually a gathering that happens at the community center. With regards to the lighting of the menorah, one of the reasons why the park in mind, and it's Saint-Jean Park, had been proposed, in my view, is because it was walking distance back to the community center. And he said that for him, he preferred that the dust settle and that there be no commemoration or no celebration done, so that there's no sense that it is being a religious event, but that the menorah be received as a cultural lighting, as we light trees, as we do other decorations. We have a tree here in the corner, and that we perceive it more as a festive and cultural object rather than a religious.
So there will be something happening, but it will be up to, we'll find out about it.
I believe the rabbi will be organizing something probably through the Chabad, is my guess, but he has made the choice not to hold the event here. I had no problem with it being offered here.
Oh, so the community center was offered as a place?
Yeah, I told him anytime if he wanted to continue in this
I mean,
sense.
to light the menorah and to put the menorah into have.
Not the lighting of the menorah in front of the community center.
It was just as a party, a celebration inside.
Sure, I have no problem with
it. Just to be clear what happened.
Yeah,
okay, so yeah, as you know, it's been since, as I said, since 2011. I was there for the very first lighting and for every single one ever after. So I just wondered. Okay, thank you very much for your explanation.
Welcome, Helen. Louise Craig, you have the floor.
Hi, Chloe.
Hi, Louise.
Well, first off, I want to thank the employees who did a magnificent job with the lights in front of Town Hall and also at Hall Crow. I think it's the nicest I've seen so far. So I don't know who was in charge of that, but kudos to them because the town was great.
Gaétan Gingras and his team take great pride in decorating the town with the lights, but also I learned, I think it was Linda May who'd pointed out the beautiful wreaths along the posts, and I found out from Gaétan Gingras, who is the contremaître at town, at Public Works, that these had been commissioned through our local florist, and that the directive that he gave her was to use natural material, and it was important for him that it was locally made. So yes, I have certainly thanked him for taking such great care, and he takes great pride in his work, so anytime you see him, please let him know.
I will. Chloe, I have a question regarding the previous DG. I know that he's going to continue to work on what you said are going to be large projects. I'd like to know if one of those large projects still includes the canceling of the train to Hudson.
So definitely looking at acquiring the corridor, the train corridor between, well, on Hudson property, but essentially the three municipalities looking into this are Vaudreuil, Hudson, and Rigaud will continue. It's a very slow process. It's not very fruitful at this time, more because my sense is that EXO is looking to hang on to its assets in order to keep its numbers up. We'll see. I think that there are other train corridors that are also running into deficit and high costs of maintenance, especially since the arrival of the REM in the east. So for Mascouche, it is a situation, an issue. And also the train of Mont-Saint-Hilaire is under review, close review by la RTM and EXO. So for us, it continues. It's not a high priority by any means, but we continue to move along the conversation to assess what the costs may be on either side, what the subsidies may be, what we're looking at. But I can tell you that in 2 years, I don't feel we have made much progress.
But you're still looking at canceling the train service is what you're saying.
Replacing it with a bus service from Hudson to Vaudreuil that would be much better and more frequent than the train service we have now.
Okay, well, given the fact that we do have a situation with the bridge, which is going to continue to be ongoing, the bridge will not be operational until 2027 in part. We don't know how many more closures we're going to see or if we're going to see a complete closure of the Elotour Bridge in the meantime. I find at this point we should be looking at keeping this train and increasing the service of the train. Before COVID, the Hudson-Vaudreuil line was the only line on EXO ARTM that was actually seeing an increase in ridership. The other ones were seeing less commuters, but our region was actually increasing it.
So again, the number or the date that we've received from the Ministry of Transport for the operational new bridge is September of 2026. I really doubt that our project would be operational with regards to the corridor before then. So until the bridge is replaced, I think that it is safe to say that the train will continue. As long as EXO and les RTM wish to continue the service, this is an expensive cost for them as well, and they are being asked by the government and by the municipalities to take a hard look at all of their shortcomings, all of their deficit. As you know, the annual deficit that the ARTM is carrying is $500 million per year. And there is no doubt in my mind that some of those train lines are certainly responsible for this operational deficit.
Yes, that deficit is not reflective, definitely, of our region, perhaps only in a small part of that, but it's mostly Montreal. Now, for the MRC aspect of how they're handling the situation with the crisis with the bridge, can you tell me why, at this point, we have not had a demonstration by the elected inviting the population to send a loud message to Quebec that we want to have a permanent solution, not a Band-Aid solution, which applies 1 week we'll give you this, the next week we'll give you something else. There has to be a permanent solution. Why is the MRC not doing that?
So I think the MRC has been very active. The Ministry of Transport has been very active in organizing. I know that the meetings that they have with the immediately adjacent municipalities can happen every 2 or 3 days. They are taking this very seriously. They assure us that this particular situation of reduction of down to 2 lanes, so 1 on each direction, is not expected to happen again. In their view, of course, maintaining it to 5 lanes is for the full extent up until the replacement of the bridge. We will be returning to 3 lanes, and they will continue to monitor the situation closely. They are taking definite note of any suggestions that they receive. Any suggestion that I receive, I forward it to the EXO representatives, and also in the approximately weekly meetings that we have with the Ministry of Transport, I'll reiterate those. I'm not the only one around the table. There are several who do the same. And the one with the biggest leverage in all of this is Marilyn Picard. So it is very, very important, and this is the message that I give to anyone who reaches out to me, is my weight is not as strong as hers. I can do my homework and due diligence and forward the matters, but the person who will have the greatest impact on Geneviève Guilbeault is Marilyn Picard, who is her colleague at the Assembly, and apparently their offices are situated right next to each other, so they see each other in the corridor multiple times a day and share on the state of this bridge regularly. So that is my recommendation.
My understanding is that Geneviève Guilbeault is really not that familiar with our region, nor has she tried to seek out a permanent solution to this. Again, would they come back to the MTQ seems to be running this show, seems to be telling the municipalities what they're going to do. They try to tell the municipalities that the bridge is safe, despite the fact that we do not have an independent engineering study to state that it is. We only have their word that it is. Why isn't the MRC demanding to have an independent engineering study to see the state of this bridge? The MTQ has just been sanctioned, as you know, for the way that they have mishandled many files, including the file for the Illitourt Bridge, with not using enough cement, with 35 sanctions that had been given of issues with the repairs to the bridge, which they absolutely ignored. Why isn't the MRC taking control of this? You take control by inviting the Premier of the province and the Minister of Transport. I'm sorry, but a local MNA does not have that level of power. I don't care where her office is. The people that make the decisions are François Legault, and it's going to be Geneviève Guilbeault.
So Geneviève Guilbeault is actively present on the file. She was there in the meeting that was called Sunday afternoon, so that's yesterday afternoon. She was there for the whole duration. The meeting lasted over an hour. She seems to have certainly increased her knowledge and interest in the region. I agree with you that there would be greater impact in calling the Prime Minister. That is a good suggestion. I have a meeting at the MRC on Wednesday night, so in 2 nights, and I will let the Préfet, Patrick Boussez, know of this suggestion and see how he feels about it. Again, I think that their relationship with the Ministry of Transport and all of the collaborators or the partners around this project or this situation is a lot tighter and more granular, I suppose, than mine might be, but I'll see if this has been approached. I haven't heard of this suggestion yet. In terms of permanent solutions, the permanent solution is the replacement of the bridge. And they've already, what they reported to us yesterday is they've already cut 1 year on the delivery of this bridge, and that is as much as they are able to quicken the delivery and the replacement of the bridge.
Chloe, at this point, we don't even have an emergency lane. We don't have a dedicated public transit lane. 35% of morning commuters are students that need to get across the bridge. The TransCanada, the bridge, are packed with trucks. That's who's taking this space. Students don't have 2 hours, 3 hours to guess whether they're going to be able to get to a class or not. You know that. So, I mean, the MRC has to take this seriously. This is their moment. Just as the hospital, there was a specific moment to make the ask to get Francois Legault, and it was only a phone call, Chloe. I made it. It was easy to get him here. To do that. You guys have to do that. You have to take this seriously and understand that you have a very small window of opportunity to get as many things as possible.
We do take it seriously, but I will certainly bring your proposal forward to Patrick Boussez on Wednesday evening.
Okay, and Chantal Rouleau, Jim and I had been in a small meeting, a private meeting with Chantal Rouleau. They were members of I think it was Saint-Anne de Bellevue and Centerville that were there too. I think the DG of both of those municipalities was there. I think the MNA for her adjoint was there. The MNA for Vaudreuil was there. Adjoint was there. And as we were leaving the meeting, Chantal Rouleau looked at Jim and I and said, you need to understand something. And this is when she had just promised that the RAM would be extended here, or the bridge would be built to have the RAM on it. She said the new bridge will not be able to accommodate all the traffic that would be on it. I am pleading with you guys, this is Jim and I, to try to convince people in Vaudreuil-Soulanges to take public transit because the new bridge won't be able to handle the traffic, the added traffic that's expected. Again, we have no solution. We have right now a few free train rides that we can take. We have free buses that we can take. We have a free 30, but these should be permanent, not temporary.
Permanent after the bridge is replaced?
Absolutely, absolutely. For as long as it's going to take to have that. This is your window of opportunity. This is your carpe diem moment to say, we will not accept that. But the only way that you can do that is not by having the MTQ lead the meetings. This is by having the MRC say, we've had enough. We want to be heard here. We want to have the 20 bypass. We want serious dates in place. And this is what we expect. We want to have free public transit for the people of our region. We don't believe this bridge is going to last those years. You have the chance. This is your opportunity. You don't get these often.
I will bring your proposal to the MRC table on Wednesday night.
Perfect. Appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Are there any other questions? No. En français, on a dit quand l'ordre du jour est épuisé, mais je pense que les conseillers sont épuisés. Hein?
I agree.
So, section 12, adjournment of the meeting. I will need a mover, Peter Mate, and seconded by Benoit Blais, that the meeting be adjourned at... Who proposed? Sorry, 10h19.
Même pas en français.
Are there any objections to the resolution? There are none. It is carried.
We're done.
Unanimity.